Chapter 601 Path of No Return. After watching the two men vanish into the void, Suzumo finally turned around and placed his hands on the void trees. The most valuable parts of a void tree were its leaves and the wood itself. Without studying them too much, he simply pulled the trees up by the roots and planted them into his god world. To Suzumo, the void trees weren't that tempting. Although many cultivators came to Void Valley, the land was so vast that it was rare to encounter others. The closer one got to the path of no return, the more desolate it became. Suzumo continued traveling for over a month before finally reaching the border of the path of no return one afternoon. Ahead of him stretched a horizontal mountain range. From a distance, the range resembled a wall, a natural divide cutting Void Valley into two. There were no signs of life. As far as the eye could see, there was only an endless stretch of mountains. Suzumo noticed that while flying in Void Valley was still barely possible, the closer he got to the path of no return, the harder it became. The spatial laws above were completely chaotic. The space itself was fragile, like paper, ready to tear apart at the slightest touch. When he stood atop the ridge, he looked toward the other side, into the borderlands of the path of no return. There, space no longer existed in the traditional sense. Countless spatial storms surged wildly. Once space shattered in this region, it could not repair itself. The storms roared like blades, churning through the land. Suzumo noticed a transparent barrier along the other side of the ridge. He couldn't pass through directly, so he decided to find the valley Old Master Pai had mentioned. He walked along the mountain ridge, searching. Along the way, he saw several valleys and encountered 5 or 6 more void trees. Eventually, he found a valley that matched Old Master Pai's description. This valley was strange. Unlike the rest of Void Valley, it was full of plant life, something almost impossible in this land. Several poplar and willow trees grew within. Dense shrubs and green plants also poked out from the cliffside. On the eastern side of the valley, a waterfall poured down like a long river from above. The water was crystal clear and flowed from the high cliff into a deep, bottomless pit below. Suzumo walked slowly into the valley. As he approached the river, he smelled a strong aroma of alcohol, a rich, fragrant scent. He touched the falling water, then raised his hand and sniffed it. It wasn't water, it was wine. The entire waterfall was formed from wine. According to Old Master Pai, this was the very place where he had found the golden monkey statue. Before Suzumo could think deeper, he suddenly heard loud shouting from the distance. Chaotic yelling mixed with rumbling vibrations. Void storms coming. Everyone run. Get out of Void Valley. It's about to be cleansed. Panic filled the air. Suzumo looked up and saw the sky beginning to split. Cracks spread rapidly across the sky, multiplying and widening. The entire sky looked like it was collapsing, and even the ground began to tremble. In the distance, he saw people fleeing. Above, countless streams of chaotic space tore through the sky. Wherever they passed, all plant life was wiped out. The storm approached quickly, like a massive sweeping purge of the land. As it neared the valley, Suzumo calmly took a bead from his god world. The wind-destroying pearl, one of the 5 spirit orbs. He had once acquired 2 of these pearls, the soft water pearl and the wind-destroying pearl. The 5 spirit orbs had powerful origins. It was said their true strength could only be unlocked when united, but even individually, they held great power. The wind-destroying pearl governed all the winds of the world. Some even called it the God Wind Anchor. Suzumo slowly channeled his power of creation into the pearl, and it began to glow with a soft greenish light. He tossed it upward, and the pearl hovered above him. A beam of light shot down and enveloped him completely. As the storm of space tore through the valley, all the plants were uprooted and shredded. But Suzumo stood still. The pearl above his head shone brightly as it rotated. The spatial storm passed quickly, sweeping through the valley in an instant and then vanishing just as fast. Once it passed, Suzumo looked around and found the entire valley destroyed. Only the wine-like waterfall remained. Previously, the vegetation had hidden the cliffs. Now that everything was gone, he spotted a door embedded in the bare rock. A black and gold ancient door. Suzumo could sense it was sealed. But on the left side of the door, one section of the seal had broken, leaving a small gap. Is this the entrance to the path of no return? He wondered aloud. He glanced at the flowing waterfall again. Could it be monkey wine? At that moment, he became even more certain. If the void spirit monkey existed, it must be inside the path of no return. Looking up at the wind-destroying pearl, he hesitated. The spatial storms inside the path of no return would be far stronger than what he'd just faced, on a completely different level. If he had all 5 pearls, he wouldn't be worried. But with just 2, he wasn't sure if it would hold. After thinking for a moment, he decided. He stepped into the gap of the ancient door, officially entering the path of no return. Piercing winds sliced across his body like blades. This desolate land was covered in thick white fog. He could only see about 10 meters ahead. Suzumo looked around in confusion. He had lost all sense of direction. The pressure on the wind-destroying pearl overhead was immense. It spun faster and faster. Suzumo felt his power of creation being rapidly consumed. There was no spirit force in this space to replenish it. They say Void Valley is the abandoned land of the primordial heartlands, but maybe this place, the path of no return, is the true core of that abandonment. Suzumo muttered. Just as he felt lost and aimless, he suddenly sensed a reaction from the golden monkey statue. Chapter 602 Great Sage Heaven Unity. Seeing the golden monkey statue react, Suzumo quickly took it out. It radiated an intense light that instantly cleared away all the surrounding fog, giving Suzumo a much clearer view. He felt a connection from the statue. It was guiding him forward. The surrounding space storms howled louder and wilder. With each step, Suzumo felt more burdened. He followed the statue's guidance, struggling onward. In this world, he had completely lost his sense of direction. He couldn't even find the entrance he came from. The only thing he could rely on was the statue in his hand, and the guidance it seemed to give him. He walked for a very long time. Inside the path of no return, the pressure on him grew heavier and heavier. It felt like he was carrying a mountain on his back. His head was foggy, his legs felt like they were filled with lead, heavy and hard to move. Time became meaningless. He didn't know how many days or months had passed. He just kept moving forward. Eventually, dragging his exhausted body, Suzumo arrived at the entrance of a valley. Right then, the golden monkey statue lost its glow. The guidance vanished. Suzumo slowly stepped into the valley, and it felt like entering an entirely different world. Earlier, he had been walking through a desolate desert-like place, dry and barren. But inside the valley, not only were the spatial storms gone, but the pressure on his body vanished as well. Around him were green mountains, flowing rivers, and flowers and trees everywhere. There were no birds, but the air was filled with the scent of flowers. Dozens of birch and poplar trees were scattered through the valley, intertwined with violet and green flowers, and dogtail grass covered the ground like a soft carpet. The entire valley was lush and vibrant. A small river flowed along the cliffside. The water was crystal clear, and large, ancient-looking pebbles lay at the bottom of the stream. Half kneeling by the river, Suzumo dunked his head into the water. He drank deeply, trying to clear his head. The water was cold and sweet, instantly refreshing his mind. After a long while, he raised his head, feeling much better. Then he began to observe the valley more closely. It was huge, full of jagged rocks and steep terrain. Ahead was a shaded path lined with peach trees. It was spring, and the trees were full of blooming pink flowers. Fallen petals covered the ground in thick layers, filling the air with a sweet fragrance. As Suzumo walked through the shaded path, he reached a massive peach orchard. Branches were heavy with ripe red peaches. Peach blossoms and fruit fragrance mixed in the air, and flower petals fell gently like rain. Suddenly, strange chirping came from deep within the orchard. Suzumo's face changed. He rushed toward the sound. As the peach petals rained around him, he sprinted for several minutes before reaching a waterfall. The sound of rushing water filled the air. There, on the smooth rocks beside the falls, worn down by years of flowing water, a golden monkey was jumping around, hugging several peaches and playing happily. The monkey was fat and resembled a gorilla. Its eyes were golden, and deep in its pupils was a flash of red. Its muscles were bulging, radiating sheer power. As soon as it saw Su Zimo, the golden monkey yelped in surprise and vanished into the void. The peaches it was holding fell and splashed into the river below. Then the void trembled, and the monkey reappeared, this time holding a thick wooden staff and staring at Su Zimo with sharp, wary eyes. "Human, how did you get here?" the golden monkey asked. "Void spirit monkey?" Su Zimo asked uncertainly. "You know the name of my kind?" The monkey replied with a puzzled look. "I went through a lot of trouble to find you," Su Zimo said with a smile. "What do you want from me?" the monkey asked. "I want you to become my pet," Su Zimo answered. "Bah! I, the great sage Heaven Unity, roam freely through the 8 wilds, seeking the Tao and eternal life. I'll never serve anyone," the monkey roared. It slammed its wooden staff to the ground, and half the sky shattered under the force. "You little thief, dare insult me? Take this strike." The staff came crashing down with overwhelming power. Su Zimo drew his sword, Shadow Tyrant, and slashed upward. Boom! Space rippled violently, and countless peach petals fluttered down like rain. Su Zimo was forced back several steps from the impact, but the golden monkey hadn't moved an inch. "Such strength," Su Zimo said in surprise. "My peaches!" the monkey cried out, seeing the petals and fallen fruit. It wailed miserably. Then it spun its staff with great force and lunged at Su Zimo again. "Sky-shaking strike," Su Zimo shouted. He gathered all his power into a single point and swung Shadow Tyrant once more. The sword and staff clashed, and the space around them shattered. Boom! A deafening explosion shook the air. The golden monkey was sent flying backward. Although Su Zimo had won that exchange, his whole body ached. It felt like every bit of his strength had been drained. "That thing's really strong," he muttered. "Take another strike," the monkey roared. It stood up, completely unharmed, and leapt dozens of meters into the air. The next blow stirred up a storm, shattering the sky above. Su Zimo waved both arms, revealing his god world behind him. A massive blue planet emerged, carrying unmatched power. The power of creation surged from it. The monkey's staff struck the blue planet, but not even a ripple appeared. "What is this?" the golden monkey shouted in shock. "Suppress," Su Zimo shouted. The planet descended from the sky, aiming to crush the golden monkey beneath it. The monkey's expression turned serious. The massive planet pressed down on its back. It roared furiously, bearing the weight of the planet with gritted teeth and a fierce glare. 2 sharp fangs jutted from its mouth. "I am great sage Heaven Unity," it roared, despite the crushing pressure of the blue planet. Chapter 603, The Eternal Lands. The weight crushed the monkey's back, forcing it down. But the golden monkey still struggled, trying hard to lift its head, veins and tendons bulging all over its body. "It's no use. Human strength has its limits. How can you fight against the entire world? Or maybe, it's just that you're not strong enough yet," Su Zimo said, shaking his head. He waved both hands again, fully activating the god world, which came crashing down with unstoppable force. The golden monkey roared, holding on for a short while. Then its body gradually lowered as it yelled, "No more! I give up!" The blue planet dropped completely, pressing the monkey flat to the ground, unable to move. Su Zimo had previously been taught how to use the demon seal by Paimon. He formed hand seals with both hands, infernal force spread across the sky, and a demon seal slowly appeared in front of him. "Accept this mark into your body, and you'll live," Su Zimo said calmly. "You want me to surrender? I, the great sage Heaven Unity, would rather die than serve," the monkey growled. "Don't be so dramatic. I never said I was going to kill you," Su Zimo replied. "I just need you to help me break a seal." After that, you're free. Really? The monkey eyed Su Zimo suspiciously. I don't believe a word you say. You can talk all you want. I won't give in. Do you recognize this? Su Zimo slowly pulled out the monkey statue. My sage body! The monkey cried out in shock. How do you have that? I found it, Su Zimo said casually. You've been to the valley where I cultivated? The monkey asked. Something like that, Su Zimo said. So what now? Give me the sage body and I'll agree to your condition. The monkey answered without hesitation. Just as it finished speaking, there was a loud boom in the distance. Explosions shook the world around them. The earth cracked open, and the wind-destroying pearl above Su Zimo's head began to spin rapidly. What's happening? Su Zimo looked into the distance. Beyond the valley, the sky was in chaos. Sandstorms, lightning, and thunder roared. A tornado-like storm swept toward them at high speed. This is bad. It's a void storm. Run, run! The monkey shouted in panic. Space turbulence? Su Zimo asked. No. A void storm is a real disaster. The monkey shouted. This is all your fault. The battle earlier must have drawn it here. I don't get it, Su Zimo said, shaking his head. The monkey, despite its weak state, sprang up and took off running without hesitation. Hurry! Use the sage body to guide us. We have to get out of the path of no return and back to Void Valley. It's the only safe place. The two of them fled the valley, running through the fog. As they escaped, the monkey gave a brief explanation. All things in the world can have a spirit. Humans, animals, and plants are born with it. This is called innate spirit. But there are also strange things in the world that can gain a spirit over time. These are called acquired spirits. The path of no return is as ancient as the primordial heartlands. In the beginning, it only had space turbulence. But after countless years, some of that turbulence gained sentience. These entities grew stronger by devouring other space currents. Eventually, they formed what's now called void storms. These storms can devour everything and are made from countless waves of space turbulence. They are nearly unstoppable, especially in a place like the path of no return, which is their home turf. The void spirit monkey had lived here for ages. It knew how to stay safe by hiding from void storms in its valley. When it needed to cultivate, it would leave the path of no return and go to the valley Su Zimo entered earlier to avoid detection. According to the monkey, someone had barged into its valley during a critical point in its training, and in its rush to hide, it accidentally dropped its sage body statue. Though they kept running, the thick fog slowed them down. The void storm caught up in no time. What now? Su Zimo shouted. The monkey glanced at the incoming storm, then turned into a streak of light and dove into the golden monkey statue. Su Zimo was stunned but didn't hesitate. He threw the statue into his god world. An enormous suction force pulled from behind. He was moments away from being swept in. Suddenly, a giant hand reached out from the void. Paimon emerged, surrounded by dark infernal force, resisting the void storm. My lord, this is the edge of a collapsing world. I can't hold out much longer, Paimon said seriously. Su Zimo realized he couldn't even resist. His god meridian cultivation was useless here. He was like an insect. The void storm tried to drag him in, but Paimon blocked it. Su Zimo felt frozen, unable to move even an inch. As time passed, the storm kept consuming surrounding space currents, growing stronger. Su Zimo's vision blurred. Though his body was frozen, his soul was being pulled out, separating from his physical body. My lord, Paimon shouted, preparing to open his 10th meridian gate, ready to risk everything to save Su Zimo. Su Zimo's soul lifted upward. Just before vanishing, he saw a thin crack inside the storm, like a split in the sky, where the outline of another world flickered faintly. Just protect my body. I'll be back, Su Zimo shouted. And then his soul was completely pulled into the rift within the void storm. Darkness, endless darkness surrounded him. Su Zimo's consciousness faded. His senses shut down, and his mind drifted into sleep. Before he blacked out, He felt as though he had been squeezed into a tiny, compressed space. After that, all awareness disappeared. The Eternal Lands, Nine Heavens Imperial Sect. Chapter 604 Nine Heavens Imperial Sect. The Nine Heavens Imperial Sect was located in the far northern region of the Eternal Lands. This area was flat and vast with fertile lands. It was one of the most prosperous regions in the entire continent. In the north, where countless sects competed and power was scattered, the Nine Heavens Imperial Sect was just a second-rate force, not particularly notable. The name Nine Heavens came from the nine celestial realms: Divine Heaven, Azure Heaven, Jade Heaven, Cinnabar Heaven, Scenery Heaven, Pure Heaven, Vibrant Heaven, Purple Heaven, and Grand Heaven. So, the sect was divided into 9 branches. Though part of the same sect, they came from different origins. Each branch had its own ruler. They existed together, yet operated almost like 9 independent powers. The Nine Heavens Imperial Sect was built atop a nameless mountain. There were attempts to rename it Nine Heavens Mountain, but the idea was rejected. Looking past the sect's entrance from afar, one could see 9 towering peaks arranged in a celestial formation. Each peak stretched into the clouds, with elegant buildings hidden in the mist. Steep cliffs and sharp ridges filled the landscape. It was as if these mountains competed with the heavens themselves. The scene resembled a paradise. 9 peaks surrounded by floating islands and buildings formed the complete Nine Heavens Imperial Sect. At this moment on Grand Heaven Mountain, inside a luxuriously decorated room, Su Zimo slowly opened his eyes. His head ached, swollen with pressure, as if a flood of memories had just been shoved into his brain. Grand Heaven Mountain. Lin Qiu, son of the Mountain Lord of Grand Heaven. Su Zimo didn't worry about anything else yet. He focused on the memories now inside his head. After his soul was pulled into the space storm, it had somehow entered this body. The original owner of the body was Lin Qiu, son of Lin Beisheng, the Mountain Lord of Grand Heaven Mountain. Su Zimo skimmed through the man's life and came to one conclusion: tragic. His meridians were sealed from birth. His father used all his resources to open only the first 3, barely helping him reach the true meridian realm. The rest of his meridians were sealed too tightly and couldn't be opened. Because of his father's status, he lived under a halo of privilege, but also behind his back came endless mockery. A classic trash-to-hero story? Su Zimo muttered. Once Lin Qiu realized he couldn't cultivate properly, he gave up martial arts completely after a few years of trying. From then on, he surrounded himself with useless friends, partying and wasting away. He became infamous on Grand Heaven Mountain as a rich brat. But because his father was the Mountain Lord, no one dared touch him. In truth, people on Grand Heaven Mountain hated him. He caused all sorts of trouble, and everyone wished for his death. And this time, someone made that happen. While he was out partying at the foot of the mountain, he was ambushed and assassinated. No one knew who the killer was. They wore a mask. By the time the sect found him, he was barely clinging to life. Lin Beisheng used massive resources to keep him alive. But even then, he hovered on the edge of death. Last night, his breath stopped entirely. That was the moment Su Zimo's soul entered his body. Su Zimo wanted to use the body's memories to learn about the Eternal Lands. But the guy knew nothing, only things around the Nine Heavens Imperial Sect. Since I'm here on the Eternal Lands, I should check out where Demon 13 once appeared, Su Zimo thought. And that demon race treasure, the Summon Demon Sky Shroud tree, I need to find it too. After thinking that through, Su Zimo started examining his surroundings. The room was luxuriously decorated. The bed he lay on was made with silk and cotton. There was a delicate table and chair in front of him, and a sandalwood cabinet in the corner. Strange ornaments hung on the walls. Every wooden object in the room was made from sandalwood or Nanmu wood. Su Zimo closed his eyes and felt his soul. The body was weak, drained from years of drinking and women. Luckily, the soul was still his. With time, he could purify and strengthen the body through soul tempering. His god world was too powerful for the body to handle right now. He'd have to refine the body first. Also, this world-crossing experience had left his soul unstable. To have survived such a violent transfer with his soul intact was already a miracle. As Su Zimo thought things through, the door suddenly opened. A maid in a green dress entered carrying a tray of medicine. When she saw Su Zimo sitting up in bed, she gasped and nearly dropped the tray. "Young master, you're awake!" she cried, then ran out in a hurry. Moments later, a middle-aged man and a young man rushed into the room. "Choer!" the middle-aged man called out, full of concern. Su Zimo recognized them from the body's memories. His father Lin Beishing and older brother Lin Feng. "How are you feeling?" "Better now?" Lin Beishing asked anxiously. "I'm much better." Su Zimo nodded slightly. "Good, good. Second brother, don't be so careless next time." Lin Feng let out a sigh of relief. "You nearly scared father to death." "It's fine as long as Choer is okay." Lin Beishing waved it off. Then he turned to the maid and said, "Little Qing, go fetch Elder Zhan Lu to examine him again." After she left, Lin Beishing turned back, his eyes narrowing. "Choer, did you get a good look at the people who attacked you?" he asked. "No, they were all masked. I didn't see anything." Su Zimo shook his head. "And that was the truth, there was nothing in the original memory." "Don't worry, I'll get to the bottom of this," Lin Beishing said coldly. "Whoever it is, they'll pay for what they've done." As they spoke, the maid returned with a man in white robes. He was elegant and refined, with sharp eyebrows and bright eyes, a truly handsome figure. His whole presence gave off an ethereal aura. "Zhan Lu, take a look at Choer. He just woke up. I want to make sure there are no lingering issues," Lin Beishing said. He had checked Su Zimo earlier and found no major problems. His life had been saved. But Zhan Lu from Cinnabar Heaven Mountain was the youngest elder in 100 years. Cinnabar Heaven Mountain specialized in healing and medicine. It was best to be certain. The white-robed man gave a calm nod. His eyes opened wide, and a brilliant light flickered within them. Chapter 605, 3 Lives, Undying Codex. A wave of white spirit force spread out like mist, surrounding Su Zimo. After a long time, Elder Zhan Lu slightly frowned and said, "Strange. Yesterday I saw that he was beyond saving. How is he suddenly better today, and recovering so quickly? It doesn't make sense." "As long as he's fine, that's all that matters," Lin Beishing laughed. "My son is blessed with good fortune. If that's the case, then just focus on recovering in the days to come." Dan Zhanlu nodded calmly. "Father, I feel a bit tired." Su Zimo rubbed his head and said, "Then rest more. I'll have someone prepare some nourishing food for you later." Lin Beishing nodded, then gave a few more instructions before leaving the room with the others, letting Su Zimo rest alone. Now only Su Zimo and the maid Little Qing remained in the room. Little Qing seemed to be afraid of Su Zimo, keeping her head lowered and a cautious distance from him. Su Zimo thought back through the body's memories. Little Qing used to be a performer at a brothel beneath the Nine Heavens Imperial sect, one who sold her talents, not her body. Then the original owner of this body saw her and, using his influence, forcefully brought her here to serve as his personal maid. After that, everything happened, the good and the bad. The original owner also had a nasty temper, so Little Qing always kept her distance. Now that he looked at her properly, Su Zimo saw she was truly beautiful. Wearing a green dress, she looked like a gentle woman. Long eyelashes, an oval face, and long black hair woven into braids and tied behind her head. Her figure was neither too thin nor too heavy, just perfectly full and curvy. "You can go. I want to rest alone," Su Zimo said with a wave of his hand. Little Qing gave him a surprised look and quickly left the room. Su Zimo closed the door and finally began his cultivation. At first, he only planned to use this body as a temporary vessel. His soul would eventually return to his original body, so there was no need to put too much effort into refining this one. But then he remembered a legendary meridian technique called the 3 Lives Undying Codex. Its greatest strength was allowing the creation of a second body. This second body could see, feel, cultivate, and comprehend things independently, and all of it could be transferred back to the original body with 100% accuracy. Also, as long as the original body remained alive, the second body would not die. Of course, the difficult part was forming this second body. It had to be a perfect match with the original soul. Because of this strict requirement, very few people in history had succeeded. But now, Su Zimo had ended up in this body through a twist of fate. So how to refine it and sync it with his soul was entirely up to him. The first step in refining the body was breaking the sealed meridians so he could cultivate. This seal might be tough for others, but for Su Zimo it was doable. He sat cross-legged on the bed. It would be hard to open the meridians from the outside, but much easier from within. He slowly activated the power of his God soul. The spirit force inside him surged like a roaring river, flowing straight toward the sealed meridians. Su Zimo didn't rush. While refining the weak body, he also worked on unblocking the meridians. From inside, faint bang 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 sounds echoed. He kept cultivating like this for a full day and night. By the next morning, driven by hunger, he finally stopped. Because he'd ordered not to be disturbed, no one dared to bother him. In fact, the people in his courtyard were more than happy to stay away from him. Su Zimo stretched his waist. It had been a long time since he had felt this weak. Then he stepped out into the courtyard. His courtyard was quite spacious, lined with rare plants and trees. In front was a fake mountain and flowing water, with a pond surrounded by flowers where fish swam peacefully. Several ancient trees taller than the house spread thick branches and leaves, shading half the yard. Cool wind blew gently, and a gazebo stood on the left side of the courtyard. "Little Qing," Su Zimo called, but no one answered. He frowned slightly and walked to the courtyard gate. 2 guards were stationed outside, both sent by Lin Beishing. They stood still, eyes straight ahead. "Have you seen Little Qing?" Su Zimo asked. "Reporting to young master, Miss Little Qing left early this morning," said the guard on the left. "Then go get me some food. I'm hungry," Su Zimo ordered. Although his God soul from the God Meridian realm was leading the refinement process, it still required a massive amount of energy. And the most direct way for humans to get energy was through food. As for Little Qing, he didn't care much at the moment. Soon after, the guard returned with several maids carrying trays of food. Su Zimo glanced at it, 9 trays, each with 3 dishes. A total of 27 dishes, all balanced between meat and vegetables. "Young master, this is meat from the green sun tiger, great for boosting energy. This is a soup made from the longevity turtle, simmered for over 12 hours. These were all prepared under orders from the Peak Master," one maid explained briefly. "Got it. You can all leave now." Su Zimo waved his hand. Once everyone left, he rubbed his growling stomach and began to eat. Halfway through the meal, he heard a commotion outside. Now that he was full, he walked out of the gazebo and headed toward the noise. "What's going on?" he asked with a frown. "Young master, this man tried to force his way in. We stopped him," a guard replied. Su Zimo turned and saw a man in a yellow robe, his face showing disdain. He wore a sword at his waist and a black hat on his head. "Who are you?" Su Zimo asked. "My young master asked me to deliver a message. From now on, Miss Little Qing will be his personal maid," the yellow-robed man said. "She chose this herself, so don't bother her again." After speaking, the man handed over a pouch filled with spirit crystals. "These are the crystals you paid to free Little Qing. We're returning them." "And who is your young master?" Su Zimo asked with a blank expression. "Xin Lang, the #1 blade of Jade Heaven Mountain," the yellow-robed man said proudly. "What a joke!" Su Zimo waved his hand and turned to the 2 guards. "Break his legs, crack his nuts, and let him crawl back."
Chapter 606, Ie Kai và Ie Suan.
When Su Zimo gave the order, the man in yellow cried out in alarm. He shouted, "Lin Xiu, what are you trying to do? We're fellow disciples from the same sect. Are you trying to kill your own people? You're a disciple from Jade Heaven Mountain, yet you came to Grand Heaven Mountain acting arrogant and even tried to steal my maid. No matter how you spin it, I'm in the right here, Su Zimo replied calmly. If you dare touch me, Senior Brother Shen Lang won't let you off, the man in yellow said in a panic. Before he could finish speaking, the two guards beside him moved. Each landed a palm on his knees and then on his. Painful cracking sounds echoed, and the man in yellow fell to his knees, screaming in pain. The intense pain bent his body like a shrimp. His forehead dripped with sweat. He glared at Su Zimo with hatred and growled, "Why, you'll regret this, you useless trash. I'll remember this humiliation." Su Zimo chuckled and said, "Rip out his tongue and shove it up his ass. Let him crawl back to Jade Heaven Mountain. Oh, and I'll be in seclusion for a while. Don't disturb me unless it's urgent." With that, Su Zimo returned to his courtyard, ignoring the painful screams behind him. After finishing his meal, Su Zimo returned to his room to continue refining his body. Restoring his strength was the foundation of surviving in this new world. Because time flowed differently between the God world and the eternal lands, 10 days in the God world equaled just 1 day here, he chose to train inside his own inner world, the God world. Thanks to the strength of his divine soul, body refinement wasn't too difficult anymore. Still, for the sake of a solid foundation and maximizing this new body's potential, he took things slowly and carefully. Like that, Su Zimo trained non-stop in the God world for 3 whole months. Aside from eating to replenish energy, he devoted all his time to refining his body. In the outside world, only 1 month passed before Su Zimo finally walked out of his courtyard. He planned to visit his father and then check out the scripture repository of Grand Heaven Mountain. That would be his first step toward understanding this new world. As he stepped out of his courtyard, Su Zimo took his first good look at the scenery since arriving here. Grand Heaven Mountain towered into the sky. From afar, it looked less like a mountain and more like a floating continent. The peak was surrounded by mist, and his courtyard sat halfway up. Around the mountain floated countless jade towers and pavilions. Cranes flew elegantly through the sky, circling the towers and calling out clearly. Others rode 6-winged flying tigers. The beasts roared, lightning crackled around them, and purple arcs of energy surged in the air. It all looked like a fairyland, beautiful and surreal. The courtyards were not just for him. Other disciples lived nearby too. Residences in Grand Heaven Mountain were strictly ranked. The Mountain Lord lived at the summit, followed by the elders. Below them were core disciples, then family members like Su Zimo. Even lower were the inner and outer disciples, and finally the servant disciples, too many to count. Not long after Su Zimo stepped out, he saw 2 people approaching. A man and a woman, both a bit older than him. The man wore the white robe of a core disciple, with a long sword at his waist. His robe was embroidered with drifting white clouds and had gold-trimmed blue borders. The woman beside him had a delicate, oval face and bright, lively eyes. She wore her hair in a bun and dressed in a custom white robe for female disciples. Her skin was fair and gave off an air that made others want to protect her. When the 2 saw Su Zimo walking over, the man stayed calm, but the woman gave a loud snort, clearly upset. Based on his memories, Su Zimo knew who they were. They were Lin Beixing's personal disciples. The man was Yi Kai, the woman Yi Xian, a brother-sister pair who had joined the sect together under Lin Beixing. Su Zimo also knew why Yi Xian was angry. The previous owner of her body had once secretly looked at her and spread nonsense stories about her throughout the Great Heaven Mountain. That scandal had ruined her reputation. Even Lin Beixing, who doted on Lin Xiu, had scolded him seriously. Since then, Yi Xian held a deep grudge. Su Zimo shook his head slightly. He really felt like he was paying off someone else's debts. But now that he had taken this body, there was no avoiding it. Junior brother Lin. Yi Kai greeted him with a smile. Yi Kai had a good temper, calm and polite without the arrogance of a core disciple. He was well-liked among Grand Heaven Mountain's people. Senior brother Yi. Senior sister Yi. Where are you heading? Su Zimo smiled and asked. There's a major event coming up among the 9 mountains. It's called the 9 Heavens Grand Gathering. Yi Kai explained with a smile. Apparently, people from the main sect will be attending, so our patriarch is taking it very seriously. He hopes our peak can perform well and outshine the others. That's why he's been personally teaching us lately. When Ye Kai mentioned the main sect, Su Zimo found some useful info in his memories. A long time ago, the Nine Heavens Imperial Sect was the strongest force in the northern region. But internal conflicts and several major battles split the sect. Some people left to form a new sect elsewhere. Those who stayed behind slowly declined, falling from a top-tier force to a second-rate one. The remaining 7 peaks were now only united in name. Meanwhile, the people who left formed a new Nine Heavens Imperial Sect, which only grew stronger and eventually became dominant. Interestingly, the main sect didn't abandon the old one. They still helped the old sect regularly. To distinguish the two, people referred to the new sect as the main sect and the old one as the branch sect. Su Zimo's Grand Heaven Mountain was part of the branch sect. Each year, the main sect would select talented disciples from the branch to train in their ranks. So this Nine Heavens Grand Gathering, with main sect members attending, was a big deal. As for what the gathering involved, his body's memories didn't have that info. The patriarch Ye Kai mentioned was Lin Jumi, Su Zimo's grandfather. He was one of Grand Heaven Mountain's founders. Lin Beisheng, Su Zimo's father, inherited the role of Mountain Lord from Lin Jumi. The one being groomed to take over as the next Mountain Lord was Su Zimo's brother, Lin Feng. Chapter 607, The Scripture Repository. Just like Lin Beisheng, Su Zimo's grandfather Lin Jumi also doted on the body's original owner, spoiling him. In fact, I just happen to need to see father too. Let's go together, Su Zimo said. Who wants to go with you? You go your way, we'll go ours. Yi Xian snorted coldly. Little sister. Ye Kai looked at Su Zimo helplessly. It's fine. Su Zimo shook his head slightly and walked ahead alone. Watching Su Zimo's back as he left, Ye Kai turned to Yi Xian and smiled. You don't really hate him anymore, do you? I hate him to death, Yi Xian said coldly, keeping her face stiff. Then why were you so anxious to ask about him when he came back badly injured? Ye Kai asked, laughing. Yi Xian's face turned red. She quickly said, I just wanted to know if he was dead or not. If he died, I'd be thrilled. Who would have thought he'd be so hard to kill? Ye Kai shook his head with a smile. I've seen hatred turn to love before, but this might be the first time I've seen love born from hate. Brother, what nonsense are you talking about? Yi Xian's face turned red to her ears, and she sped up her pace. Because of its steep terrain, Grand Heaven Mountain only had 3 roads leading up the mountain. Su Zimo chose the central one that led directly to the summit. White mist floated around him, and under his feet were white jade steps carved with fallen flowers. He walked at a steady pace, mostly to avoid revealing his true strength. On the way, many people greeted him. Although the disciples of Grand Heaven Mountain didn't like the original Lin Qiu much, because of Lin Beisheng and Lin Jumi, they at least kept things polite on the surface. They'd only call him a waste behind his back. But disciples from the other 8 peaks didn't bother to hide their disdain. Since they weren't under Lin Beisheng's authority, they often mocked him openly, and Lin Beisheng couldn't intervene in these minor disputes. Su Zimo continued up the road. Grand palaces of all styles lined the path. After more than half an hour, he reached the top of the mountain. There, several massive halls stood, some majestic and ornate, others intimidating and awe-inspiring. Very few disciples roamed this area. Most were core disciples. Su Zimo headed straight for the central hall where matters were discussed. Inside, Lin Beisheng sat at the front, reading through reports on the desk before him. This was the first time Su Zimo really looked at this body's father. He wore white robes, had thick eyebrows and big eyes, a strong build, and dark stubble around his mouth. His long hair was tied into a top knot, and his eyes were usually serious and deep. Only when he saw Su Zimo did a hint of a smile appear. Dad, Su Zimo called out. Choer, why are you out of bed? You should be resting. Lin Beisheng looked up in surprise. I got tired of lying around. I just wanted to stretch my legs, Su Zimo replied with a smile. Until we find out who tried to kill you, don't leave Grand Heaven Mountain. It's safer here. Lin Beishing nodded. Dad, I want to go to the scripture repository, Su Zimo said. The scripture repository? Why? Lin Beishing asked, puzzled. Normally, people went there to read. But Lin Beishing knew his son too well. He had no interest in reading. I just want to read a few books, Su Zimo replied. Huh? You? Why would you suddenly want to do that? Lin Beishing studied him with disbelief. I had some thoughts while I was unconscious and nearly dead. I felt I shouldn't waste my life anymore, so I want to read a bit. Su Zimo smiled. Good. Good. Reading is good. Lin Beishing clapped excitedly and quickly pulled out a token from his storage ring. Here, take this. It's my identity token. With it, you can go anywhere in Grand Heaven Mountain. Thanks, Dad. Su Zimo accepted the token with a smile. After chatting for a while, he took his leave. The scripture repository was located at the base of Grand Heaven Mountain, so inner and outer disciples could access it easily. As Su Zimo left, Lin Beishing waved his hand. A ripple appeared in the air, and a dark shadow emerged silently. Follow Chor. That token is too important. Don't show yourself unless he tries to enter the forbidden area, Lin Beishing said calmly. Then why give it to him? The shadow asked in a flat voice. Because I feel like it. Lin Beishing grinned and went back to reading. In Grand Heaven Mountain, disciples didn't trade with spirit crystals but with merit points. You earned them by completing tasks, offering rare herbs, or useful beast materials. The scripture repository had 3 floors. Anyone could enter the first floor with contribution points. Access to the second and third floors required status. At the foot of Grand Heaven Mountain, 4 key buildings stood in each direction. The scripture repository, Martial Tower, Armory, and Alchemy Tower. These were the core facilities of Grand Heaven Mountain. Su Zimo arrived at the southern scripture repository. The large building stood on flat land. Its dark walls were etched with ancient runes, giving it a solemn, ancient vibe. In front stood a massive old tree. Its trunk was so thick it would take dozens of people to wrap their arms around it. Its thick branches and lush leaves created deep shade. Under the tree, an old man lay on a recliner, enjoying a book. Su Zimo entered through the wide black doors but didn't go upstairs. He started browsing the first floor. Eventually, he found a book titled Chronicles of the World's Eras. He picked a quiet corner, sat down, and began reading carefully. The Eternal Lands are divided into 4 regions: East, South, West, and North. In size, it is much smaller than the primordial heartlands. This power structure is also different. There are no imperial lineages or immortal sects here. The highest powers are called God sects, followed by Empyrean sects and Imperial sects. Any force below Imperial sect level isn't even worth mentioning. Su Zimo focused on the cultivation system of this world. It also involved unlocking Meridian gates, but the names were different. Expansion Meridian, Will Meridian, Genesis Palace, Celestial Image, World Paragon, Fusion Heaven, Grand Empyrean, and Godly Monarch. Godly Monarch was equivalent to the God Meridian realm of the primordial heartlands. What surprised Su Zimo the most was that this world had no concept of heaven's will. There were no grand emperors or arcane immortals here. Chapter 608 Strange Meridian Sutra. In this world, when a martial artist opens the 8th meridians and reaches the Godly Monarch realm, they've hit the peak. From there, they must step onto the immortal Tao bridge, cross to the other shore, and reach a higher world. Reading this, Su Zimo was fairly certain that the Eternal Lands, whether in terms of its experts or landmass, were a smaller world compared to the primordial heartlands. He had once talked with Demon 13, who had been on the Eternal Lands God-Demon battlefield. Demon 13 had followed the founder of the Black Demon Temple from that battlefield to the primordial heartlands. If Su Zimo wanted to find the ancient demon race's ancient ruins, he would first need to locate the God-Demon battlefield. Su Zimo spent the entire afternoon quickly finishing the thick book. While he wouldn't say he fully understood the Eternal Lands, at least he now had a grasp of the basics. After putting the book away, he decided to check out the Marshall Tower. Now that he was officially a disciple of Grand Heaven Mountain, he figured he should at least learn some of their techniques. When Su Zimo exited the scripture repository, he passed by the ancient tree. The old man beneath it slowly lowered his book and looked at him. "Lin, old bastard's kid," the old man said. Su Zimo turned his head, a little confused. "Yes, I'm talking to you. The sun must be rising in the west if you're visiting the scripture repository I manage," the old man said. "What, can't I read?" Su Zimo replied. "You? Reading? Ask around Grand Heaven Mountain who'd believe that." The old man snorted. "Senior, no need to be so harsh. I had a sudden awakening, determined to change my ways and walk the martial path with pride. One day, I'll become a godly monarch and cross the immortal Tao Bridge," Su Zimo said with a smile. All right. The more you talk, the more nonsense it is." The old man waved him off and tossed a book toward Su Zimo. "Now get lost." Su Zimo caught the book. On its black cover were 3 characters. Strange Meridian Sutra. The book looked old, possibly made from beast skin, soft to the touch. "What is this?" Su Zimo asked. "A few years back, your meridians were sealed and couldn't be opened. Your grandfather worked hard to get this book for you. But then you went off the rails and gave up on everything. So I've been holding on to it," the old man explained. "Thanks," Su Zimo said as he put the book away and left. Watching Su Zimo's back, the old man shook his head slightly and muttered, "Old Lin, let's hope the boy really turns things around. In the end, the road has to be walked by him alone." The Marshall Tower was located to the west of Grand Heaven Mountain, not on the peak itself, but on a floating jade building nearby. A white stone path stretched through the sky, connecting Grand Heaven Mountain and the floating palace. The path floated midair like a stairway in the clouds. No one was allowed to fly to the Marshall Tower, not even those at the Celestial Image Realm. Su Zimo walked along the floating path, surrounded by open sky. After about 10 minutes, the Grand Hall came into view. It held the accumulation of countless martial techniques collected by the Nine Heavens Imperial Sect over hundreds of thousands of years. The massive hall was built entirely of gilded gold. Statues stood guard. A fierce warrior holding a blade, a glaring Vajra, and mythical beasts howling to the sky. The Nine Heavens Grand Formation protected the area. The hall had 3 floors. To enter, you needed an identity token. Since Su Zimo's token had no merit points, he simply used Lin Beixing's identity token. Inside the first floor, rows of small connected cabinets were filled with martial and meridian techniques. Su Zimo glanced over them. They were all basic techniques not worth learning. But next to the stairs leading to the second floor was a signature technique of the first level. Heavenly Derivation Blade caught Su Zimo's attention. The technique's intro had just one line. "A technique has no form. Comprehension makes the form. Derivation makes the technique." The meaning was clear. All techniques were born from personal insight. There were no original martial techniques. People comprehended the Tao, and techniques followed. Heaven Derivation Blade only taught a single basic move. Any further development depended on the user's own understanding. Intrigued, Su Zimo decided to come back to it later. He continued to the second floor. It was smaller, with fewer cabinets. Hurricane Palm, Heavenly Dragon Roar, Azura Battle Blade. Su Zimo skimmed through them and found them all fairly average. Even the signature second-floor technique didn't interest him. Finally, he reached the third floor, where the apex techniques of Grand Heaven Mountain were kept. It was dimly lit, with only one cabinet in the entire room. On it sat 4 books. Nine Heavens Ancient Scroll, A Speck in the Vast Sea, 6 Cuts of Ghost Zen, Sky Scar Heaven Slash. Su Zimo browsed their intros. The Nine Heavens Ancient Scroll was left behind by the founding ancestor, the Nine Heavens Sage. It was the most commonly practiced technique in the sect, with 9 moves, each corresponding to one of the 9 heavens. A Speck in the Vast Sea was a high-level water-based technique, with torrents descending from the heavens, flowing into the sea never to return. At its peak, the user could command all oceans and seas. Water had no form, it could become anything. 6 Cuts of Ghost Zen was interesting. The intro began with a big warning. Caution. The sect considered it dangerous. Those who practiced it often went insane or became crippled. It was said that this technique was obtained from killing a Buddhist cultivator, and no one had successfully mastered it since. Sky Scar Heaven Slash was a pure sword technique. After thinking it over, Su Zimo chose a speck in the vast sea and 6 Cuts of Ghost Zen. The Martial Tower had its own rules. The high-level techniques on the 3rd floor were only samples. If you wanted to learn them, you had to submit a formal request. The 3rd floor only let you browse and make a selection. Su Zimo walked back down. In the lower left corner of the 1st floor was a small room. Chapter 609 Martial Techniques of 9 Heavens Imperial Sect. The small room was home to the guardian of the Martial Tower. Su Zimo walked inside. The room wasn't large, and the center was taken up by a table. Books covered both the table and the floor. There was hardly any space to stand. Sitting across from the table was a woman in black robes. She was reading intently, flipping through the sea of books in front of her. "I'm here to request martial techniques," Su Zimo said as he took out his token. "Wait a bit," the woman said calmly, not looking up. Su Zimo nodded without rushing her. Sunlight gently spilled onto the floor, a few white clouds drifting lazily in the sky. The sunset's glow slowly faded toward the horizon. Bored, Su Zimo sat on a pile of books nearby and pulled out the strange Meridian Sutra given to him by the old man at the scripture repository. He opened it slowly, and what he read shocked him. It was something he'd never heard before. The world only knew of 12 meridians in the human body. Once all 12 were opened, one could transcend and reach the peak of martial cultivation. But the human body was full of mysteries and transformations. Beyond the 12 main meridians, there were also 36 strange meridians. These strange meridians weren't as powerful as the main ones, but they were still important. If all 36 were opened, a person could still achieve great success. If the 12 main meridians and 36 strange meridians worked together in harmony, the benefits would be immense. Potential would greatly increase, and both cultivation and comprehension would improve exponentially. As night fell, Su Zimo finally turned to the last page. He rubbed his sore eyes and looked up. The woman was still buried in her books. "Senior, can I get the techniques I requested now?" Su Zimo asked, standing up. "Oh, you're still here?" the woman said, patting her head as if she had forgotten about him. "What techniques do you want?" Su Zimo listed the 3 he had decided on earlier. "The other 2 are fine, but are you sure you want 6 Cuts of Ghost Zen?" the woman asked. "That one's infamous in the sect. Almost no one's been able to cultivate it." "I know," Su Zimo nodded. "All right then," she replied. She drew a line through the air with her hand, opening a spatial gate. She stepped into it and shortly after, came back out holding 2 books. "These are handwritten copies of 6 Cuts of Ghost Zen and a speck in the vast sea," she explained. "As for Heaven Derivation Blade, it's a bit special. It was originally a 3rd floor technique, but due to its unique nature, it's been placed on the 1st floor." "Unique nature?" Su Zimo asked curiously. "Yes, this technique involves the origin of the blade. It only teaches the basics, easy to learn and accessible to all. But how you comprehend it and what it eventually becomes depends on your own talent and luck," she said. "That's why it has no formal moves. You must enter the inheritance room to receive the blade's origin transmission." Su Zimo nodded, took the other 2 books, and headed to the inheritance room, located in a small building beside the Martial Tower, specifically built for passing on the blade's origin. By the time he left the hall, night had completely fallen. A few stars dotted the sky, and a crescent moon peeked out through the clouds. For martial artists, the higher their realm, the less they needed sleep. Some people trained 24 hours a day. When Su Zimo arrived at the small building, there was still a long line of disciples waiting. He wasn't in the mood to wait and walked straight to the front. "Hey bro, mind if I cut in line?" he asked. "Who the hell dares to cut in dash?" The man turned his head mid-sentence, But when he saw Su Zimo, he stopped dead in his tracks. "Oh, it's Senior Brother Lin. Please go ahead," he said, startled and overly polite as he stepped aside. Everyone at Grand Heaven Mountain knew Lin Chio's infamous reputation as a spoiled troublemaker. Most kept their distance. "You're pretty decent. What's your name?" Su Zimo asked. "Disciple Jiang Chongsheng," the young man quickly replied. "Chongsheng, longevity. Good name." Su Zimo nodded. "Pursue the Tao, and forget everything else for eternal life." Just average. I'm a humble man. I only claim to be the second most handsome in the world," Jiang Chongsheng said, then added dramatically. "Before I met you, I thought I was number one, but now I know I was a frog in a well. You, Senior Brother, are truly the most handsome man under the heavens." "Hey now, quit spouting so much truth," Su Zimo laughed and waved. "Keep it low-key. Don't show off so much. As punishment, go to the disciples' dorm tonight and shout that line 100 times. Jiang Chongsheng forced a smile, hiding his annoyance and mumbling in his head. "What a shameless bastard. What's that? You don't want to?" Su Zimo frowned. No, Jiang Chongsheng quickly shook his head. "I'm just worried all those ugly guys will get jealous. After all, you're the face of Nine Heavens sect. You and I, our looks are unmatched. How many men wouldn't envy us?" "You're all right," Su Zimo chuckled and patted his shoulder. "Starting tomorrow, stick with me." Without waiting for a reply, he stepped into the inheritance room. Jiang Chongsheng was left outside, now facing a crowd of angry glares. The room wasn't very large. The walls were made of black crystal stone. In the center floated a small blade-shaped embryo. Surrounding the blade were multiple layers of protective formations. Spirit force gathered into a transparent crystal barrier. Su Zimo stepped forward and placed his hand on the barrier. Before he could react, his consciousness was pulled into another world. Black and white energies swirled around him. Blade light of both colors swept through the sky. One gave birth to two, two to three, and three to all things. As the blade light split, countless sword forms rained down. Slashes, chops, stabs, thrusts, sweeps, hooks, jabs, breaks, blocks. Every kind of blade energy and form unfolded before Su Zimo. Time seemed to slow down 100-fold. All of it sank into Su Zimo's body, and in that moment of death-like stillness, his consciousness awakened. Chapter 610 Hard Training. When Su Zimo woke from his death-like consciousness, he realized he had gained a much deeper understanding of the blade. He had thought he already mastered the art of the blade, but now he saw there was still much to learn on this path. Heaven Derivation Blade. Su Zimo squinted and smiled faintly. "If the heavens are merciless and the world is full of suffering, then I'll forge a merciless blade." The inheritance process was quick. After receiving it, Su Zimo returned to his courtyard. "Young master." The two guards greeted him, standing tall. "Do you remember the young man you beat up a while ago?" Su Zimo asked. "We remember." They both nodded. The yellow-robed youth had his tongue pulled out and legs broken before Su Zimo entered seclusion. "I expect someone will come to settle that score soon. What are you going to do?" Su Zimo asked again. "Didn't you give us the order?" The two guards were startled and glanced at each other, worried they might be used as scapegoats. "If you don't want to die, do exactly as I say," Su Zimo said. They quickly nodded. The moon was faint, stars were sparse. Late at night, Su Zimo was cultivating the techniques he had learned that day. Heaven Derivation Blade required deep comprehension. The more insight one had, the more powerful it became. Without that, the technique would be weak. Su Zimo's true body returned to the true fate world and began training under the support of the heavenly Tao from the God world. Tao is the fundamental, irreplaceable force of a world, its core essence. With its help, Su Zimo's comprehension and training speed increased drastically. A speck in the vast sea, a high-level water-based technique, was among the best in its category. As the saying goes, life is but a speck in the vast sea. Some people live a simple life, others are as vast and brilliant as the stars. Like a single grain of sand drifting in a sea of countless others, never seeing the sun. But if that grain can rise to the skies, even something small can stir up massive waves and upheaval. This technique was about using the small to overcome the great. With just one point of leverage, it could shake the world. Although these were high-level techniques, Su Zimo had already reached the God King realm. They weren't difficult for him to grasp. What truly caught his attention was 6 cuts of Ghost Zen. At the beginning of this technique, there was a strange poem. Thousands of monks and Buddhas die in blood, cleansing sins and opening judgment's gate. Demonic monks and ghostly priests. Every word echoes with Ghost Tathagata. The creator of this technique was the Ghost Tathagata, who had been slain by the 9 Heavens sect's founder, the 9 Heavens Sage. The technique was passed down ever since. Contained 6 moves: Law without cause, Fallen Spirit, Seal of Slaughter, Heavenly Burial, Slaughter Form, and Ghostly Compassion. While training it, ghostly shadows would appear. A bloody aura surged into Su Zimo's mind as if to consume his consciousness. These ghostly images were like the resentments of countless beings, attacking his body and mind. The 6 moves corresponded to the 6 human senses: sight, hearing, smell, taste, touch, and consciousness. To use this technique, one must sever these 6 senses, condemning the target to an eternal, inescapable death in the underworld. To even begin learning 6 cuts of Ghost Zen, Su Zimo had to walk the edge of death himself. That's when he realized. Mastering this technique required Buddhist artifacts to suppress the evil spirits. Only by suppressing the spirits and preserving the 6 senses could one survive the technique. But Su Zimo possessed the heavenly Tao, and under its power, the ghosts were like ants, completely suppressed. What force in this world could suppress more than the heavenly Tao itself? The heavenly Tao is a part of the world. It is the world. Su Zimo didn't just want to learn 6 cuts of Ghost Zen. He wanted to combine it with his blade techniques. He wanted to create the Ghost Zen blade. Creating new martial arts wasn't new to him. In his past life, he had created techniques like the 19 forms of Tao seeking. Now, with both experience and the heavenly Tao, it was far easier. After 3 days of intense training, Su Zimo slowly opened his eyes. Outside, only one night had passed. The sky was gloomy and overcast, clouds gathering as if ready to rain. As he opened his eyes, ghostly images swirled around him, forming a faint ghostly domain. To better merge the Ghost Zen technique with his blade, Su Zimo even ventured into the hell of the God world. He visited the 18 levels of hell, built by the Slaughter God, and spent a full day there, experiencing, sensing, and understanding. Early the next morning, Jiang Chongqing arrived outside Su Zimo's courtyard. Su Zimo had summoned him, and he didn't dare disobey. He had no choice but to show up. Meanwhile, over on the eastern side outside Grand Heaven Mountain, atop Jade Heaven Mountain, the peak was surrounded by numerous mountains, homes to many powerful figures. On one of the peaks, mist drifted, and cranes cried. Inside a sealed cave, loud booms echoed out as powerful blade energy burst forth. Stones rolled down from the peak. Clearly a powerful force was building. Then, with a thunderous boom, a blade light split the entire mountain peak in half. The blade light shot into the sky, shattering the very space above. A gold-robed figure burst from the seal, flying through the air with unmatched blade intent. Congratulations, senior brother, on completing your closed-door training. Your martial path has advanced. Disciples in yellow robes stepped forward to greet him. The man had short hair, thick eyebrows, and eyes sharp as blades. His pupils were vertical like a predator's. A massive broadsword was strapped to his back, nearly as wide as his entire body. He landed on the mountaintop and waved the disciples to quiet down. He asked softly, "While I was in seclusion, did anything major happen?" "Rest assured, senior brother, we took care of everything," one disciple replied quickly. "Good. Where's Qing?" the golden-robed man asked again. Just as he spoke, a soft voice came from behind. "Master Shen." The disciples quickly moved aside, revealing Qing. a graceful young woman standing at the back, looking forward expectantly. Qing'er, the golden-robed man, Shen Lang, called out as he stepped forward. Chapter 611 Confrontation. Young Master Shen, little Qing called out a bit nervously, her head lowered shyly, not daring to look at the man in front of her. You're still calling me young Master Shen? Shen Lang pretended to be upset. Shen Lang. Little Qing looked up at him quickly, then lowered her head again. Her cheeks were like the sky at sunset, a soft blush climbing up like the evening glow. That's better. Don't worry, we'll be together for life. No one can separate us, Shen Lang said with a smile. But will Lin Qiu really let it go? Little Qing asked, worried. After all, his father is the Mountain Lord of Grand Heaven Mountain. I didn't let you come before because I was afraid it would start a fight between the two peaks, Shen Lang said coldly. But now I'm not afraid. That guy has been poisoned by my fire-burning heaven poison. At most, he has 3 months to live. His whole body will turn red and eventually die. Especially during these 3 months, he'll suffer unbearable pain every day, like being roasted by fire. He won't have time to bother you. What if someone finds out? Little Qing asked with concern. Qing'er, only you and I know. If you don't say anything, no one will. Shen Lang gently shook his head and pulled the girl into his arms. I understand, Shen Lang. I won't say a word even if I die. Little Qing hugged him back, resting her face on his chest. Solemnly, she said, I was just a woman of the dust, my life worth less than grass. Now that I have your love, I've already given myself to you. I'll follow you to the end. Shen Lang smiled and turned to look at the group of yellow-robed disciples behind him. He asked, I told Zhang Qian to go inform that useless guy. Why hasn't he come back to report? The yellow-robed disciples looked hesitant. What's wrong? Shen Lang frowned. One of the disciples shook his head slightly and waved his right hand. Bring him up. Then, a young man in yellow robes was carried in on a stretcher. Both of his legs were broken, and he was mumbling, unable to speak clearly. He looked barely alive and in terrible pain. Zhang Qian. Shen Lang frowned, his face darkening. What happened? A disciple handed over a piece of paper. Senior brother, his tongue was cut out, so I told him to write everything down. Shen Lang glanced at the paper, and with a wave of his hand, his blade energy shredded it to dust. Senior brother, are you all right? Someone asked carefully. Lin Qiu dares to insult me. I won't rest until one of us is dead, Shen Lang said with a grim face. His expression was darker than the stormy sky above. Su Zimo had just finished his cultivation and stepped out of the small courtyard when he saw Jiang Chongqing sneaking around outside. Since you're here, come in. Su Zimo waved and called him inside. The maid had already prepared breakfast and laid it out in the pavilion. Senior brother, is there something you need? Jiang Chongqing asked cautiously. Or do you admire my good looks? You know I'm a well-known playboy, Su Zimo said, waving his hand. And a playboy without a lackey is just embarrassing. Forgive me, senior brother. I don't understand. Jiang Chongqing shook his head. I want you to be my lackey. Clear enough. Su Zimo replied. A true man won't bow for mere food. I live free and wild. How could I serve under someone else? Jiang Chongqing slammed the table, speaking firmly. Don't bring this up again, or I'll be upset. Really can't do it? Su Zimo asked. Not even if I die, Jiang Chongqing said, eyes steady. Clang, a sword was drawn, and a few strands of hair fell. Wait, I changed my mind. A real man knows when to bend and when to stand tall. 1,000-mile horses are common, but true talent scouts are rare. A hidden gem, once discovered, shines brightly and breaks through the dawn. With a serious look, Jiang Chongqing said, From now on, I'll follow senior brother wherever he goes. Heaven or hell, danger or death, I won't hesitate. As they were speaking, a disciple rushed in a panic. Senior brother Lin, the Mountain Lord wants to see you, the disciple said, panting. What's it about? Su Zimo asked. Seems someone from Jade Heaven Mountain is here to see you, the disciple replied. Let's go take a look, Su Zimo smiled. Following the disciple, Su Zimo not only brought Jiang Chongqing but also took along the 2 guards who protected his courtyard. On the way up the mountain, Su Zimo asked the 2, "What are your names?" "I'm Long Yidao and he's Long Erdeo," they replied quickly. Simple and direct. "I like that," Su Zimo smiled. When they reached the top level of Grand Heaven Mountain and entered the main hall, Su Zimo saw not just his father Lin Beixing and several Grand Heaven Mountain elders, but also a young man and an old man in gold robes. "Father," Su Zimo greeted. "Chou'er, you're here." Lin Beixing smiled and waved. "I have a question for you." "Please go ahead," Su Zimo nodded. "Did you seriously injure a disciple from Jade Heaven Mountain?" Lin Beixing asked. "No, where did that come from?" Su Zimo shook his head. "Lin Qiu, you dare deny it?" The gold-robed youth Xin Lang snorted. "We have witnesses and evidence. You need to explain yourself. Who are you? Since when do outsiders get to shout in my Grand Heaven Mountains hall?" Su Zimo frowned. "Langer, stand down." The gold-robed elder beside him smiled and waved. Zhang Qian was carried in on a stretcher. The elder smiled and said, "Do you still deny it, young Master Lin?" "Deny what? I don't know anything." Su Zimo shook his head. The gold-robed elder waved, and a piece of paper appeared from his storage ring. He said, "This is Zhang Qian's statement. Do you want to see it?" Su Zimo looked at him and asked, "What's your name, elder?" "Jade Heaven Mountain, Green River," the elder said calmly. "All right, Elder Green River. Then let me say this. Your way of speaking is unreasonable." Su Zimo shook his head. "This Zhang Qian's words can't be taken as truth. Just because he says I did it, does that make it so? What if he's framing me? A while back I was almost assassinated. What if I say Elder Green River was behind it? Should that be taken as true?" "Exactly." Jiang Chongqing nodded beside him and said quickly, "He's just jealous of our young master's good looks. It's slander. Completely shameless slander." Chapter 612 Confrontation. Hearing what Su Zimo said, Zhang Qian's face turned red and pale with anger, but he couldn't say a word. Elder Green River frowned slightly and looked over at the Long brothers. He suddenly slammed the table, his aura erupting as he pressured the 2 of them and sternly said, "You 2 still won't confess? Speak up now. How did you attack him?" "Elder, we've been wronged." The Long brothers quickly knelt down and cried out, "This Zhang Qian came to our young master's courtyard acting arrogant, claiming senior brother Xin Lang will be taking away our young master's maid. But our young master was generous. He didn't argue and even treated him with food and drink. When Zhang Qian left, we even sent him off from Grand Heaven Mountain. A friend from afar is always welcome. Please don't wrong us like this." Hearing their words, Xin Lang's face flushed with anger. "Is this true?" Lin Beixing narrowed his eyes and looked at the gold-robed elder. "Green River, do you really think Grand Heaven Mountain is so easy to push around?" Green River frowned slightly and looked at Xin Lang. Clearly, Xin Lang had not told him about this. "Mountain Lord Lin, please be fair. Qing'er and I are in love. It was mutual and not forced at all," Xin Lang quickly explained. "Whether it was mutual or not, she was still my Chou'er's maid. This isn't something Jade Heaven Mountain should interfere with," Lin Beixing said. Elder Green River fell into thought for a moment before saying, "Mountain Lord Lin, as for Zhang Qian's case, while his testimony might not be completely reliable, we can't fully trust young Master Lin's words either. How about this, your side drops the issue about the maid, and we'll drop the matter with Zhang Qian. How's that?" After hearing that, Lin Beixing turned to Su Zimo and said, "It's up to you, Chou'er." Before Su Zimo could reply, Xin Lang stepped forward and calmly said, "If junior brother Lin doesn't want to settle things peacefully, then since this involves us both, why don't we settle it ourselves?" "How?" Su Zimo asked. "I, Xin Lang, challenge you to a duel. Winner takes all, even life or death," Xin Lang said seriously, his blade aura fierce. "You've got some nerve." You've already opened 5 meridian gates and stepped into the world paragon realm. You know our senior brother Lin can't cultivate, yet you make this challenge? If you're going to throw away your face, then toss it on the ground and let every Grand Heaven Mountain disciple stomp on it every day. Before Su Zimo could speak, Jiang Chongqing had already shouted. You claim to be a top disciple of Jade Heaven Mountain. I thought you'd speak with wisdom among the senior ranks of both peaks. Yet I've never seen someone so shameless. Shun Lang's eyes turned blood-red, and he roared, You're looking to die. Angry now? Why, because I exposed what you were really thinking. Jiang Chongqing shook his head slightly. Forget it. Kill me if you want. At least I, the handsome Chongqing, die with dignity after exposing your ugly face. Enough. This is the main hall for discussions. We're here to solve problems, not to argue. Elder Green River glared at everyone, then looked at Su Zimo and said, Young Master Lin, the choice is yours. If you want peace, everything ends here. If you insist on pushing for a fight between our peaks, we'll go all the way. Su Zimo looked at Lin Beixing, then shook his head and said, Let's go with whatever father says. Let's end it here, Lin Beixing said after a pause, sounding a bit weary. In that case, we'll take our leave, Elder Green River said coldly and left immediately. He was clearly not in a good mood. He had come to accuse someone but nearly ended up on the losing side. Watching them leave, Lin Beixing waved his hand and said, Everyone else can go. Choer, stay. Once everyone had left, Lin Beixing looked at Su Zimo and asked, Choer, do you blame your father for not standing up for you? You must have your reasons. Su Zimo smiled. Several thousand years ago, this place was called the Nine Heavens Empyrean Sect, not just an imperial sect. Back then, the 9 peaks helped and supported each other. Together, they grew strong and intimidated the entire northern region. Lin Beixing spoke with some emotion. Later, the sect was split. The main sect left, and the branch sects like us were left with only internal strife. Everyone wanted to unite the 9 peaks and become the true ruler of the 9 Heavens Imperial Sect. But after tens of thousands of years of fighting, the peaks still rule separately. I know all that, Su Zimo nodded. Over those long years, our Grand Heaven Mountain has slowly declined. Whether in terms of powerful cultivators or outstanding talents, we've fallen behind. Lin Beixing sighed. Especially 100 years ago, someone from Jade Heaven Mountain made a big impact in the main sect. That boosted their strength significantly. Now they're close to dominating alone. That's also why I'd rather keep the peace than start real conflict. After saying this, Lin Beixing looked seriously at Su Zimo and said, Choer, weakness is a sin. The weak have no freedom, no dignity, and no voice. They can't even control their own lives or deaths. I understand. Su Zimo nodded with a smile. I'm telling you all this so that you'll seriously train with the Strange Meridian Manual. Even if I'm gone one day, you'll still be able to survive, Lin Beixing said with a smile. I understand. Su Zimo nodded and said, Father, I'd like to discuss something with you. Go ahead, Lin Beixing replied. I want to leave the sect for a bit and visit the city at the foot of the mountain, Su Zimo said.
No.
Did you forget about the recent assassination attempt? The assassin still hasn't been found. Lin Beixing immediately rejected the idea, his face changing. If we never find them, does that mean I can never go out again? Su Zimo asked. Lin Beixing thought for a moment, then said, Wait a few more days. When Feng goes down the mountain, you can go with him. That works too, Su Zimo nodded. Lin Feng was his nominal older brother and also the imperial son of Grand Heaven Mountain. Each of the 9 peaks had one imperial son. They were considered the elite of each peak, and were either future mountain lords or sent to the main sect. Unlike Lin Xiu's former self, Lin Feng had been extremely gifted since childhood and was one of the top talents of his generation. Especially with Lin Beixing secretly grooming him, Lin Feng had become the leader of Grand Heaven Mountain's younger generation. But based on past memories, Su Zimo and Lin Feng had a very distant relationship. They basically had no interaction. Chapter 613, The 7 Major Chakras. Lin Xiu was seen as a good-for-nothing, while Lin Feng was seen as a prodigy. Aside from being blood relatives, they basically lived in completely different worlds. After Su Zimo left the main hall, he found Jiang Chongqing waiting for him nearby. "Get ready. We'll be leaving the sect for a while soon," Su Zimo said. "Got it." Jiang Chongqing nodded. "Then I'll go train for now. Let me know if you need me." After parting ways with Jiang Chongqing, Su Zimo returned to his courtyard. Grand Heaven Mountain had become noticeably quieter recently. Most disciples were training hard for the upcoming Nine Heavens gathering and didn't have time to wander around. Back in his courtyard, Su Zimo began training with the Strange Meridian Sutra. The 36 strange meridians are spread throughout the body, from the soles of the feet to the top of the head. Opening them isn't as difficult as opening the main meridians, but it's still not easy. There are 36 strange meridians in total. Every 5 of them form a major cycle, totaling 7 full cycles or 35 meridians. According to the Strange Meridian Sutra, once you open 35, you've basically reached its peak. The 36th meridian is considered legendary. Some say the manual's creator made it up and it doesn't actually exist. Others say opening the 36th meridian leads to a whole new realm. In any case, opinions vary widely. For now, Su Zimo didn't worry about the final meridian. In each cycle of 5 meridians, the last one is the hardest to open. These difficult meridians are the 5th, 10th, 15th, 20th, and so on. They're known as the 7 major chakras. They are crown chakra, brow chakra, throat chakra, heart chakra, solar chakra, navel chakra, and root chakra. Su Zimo thought that with his God meridian cultivation, opening strange meridians would be easy. But when he reached the first major cycle, the 5th meridian, the root chakra, already gave him trouble. The energy in his body couldn't penetrate the root chakra. It was as if his spirit force couldn't enter the strange meridian. But the 4 meridians he had already opened were emitting a new type of energy. Su Zimo called this energy meridian energy. To open the root chakra, he would need to gather enough of it. Only with sufficient meridian energy could he break through. He wasn't in a rush. These things required foundation, and his foundation was deeper than anyone his age. With the strange meridian path hitting a bottleneck, Su Zimo switched to practicing meridian-based techniques. Night fell. Grand Heaven Mountain was completely silent. There was no moon, and even the stars were hidden behind clouds. The sky was heavy and dark. The clouds had cleared a bit, but the air still felt oppressive, like it could swallow a person's soul. In Su Zimo's courtyard, the Long brothers were getting sleepy and chatting to stay awake. Neither of them noticed a shadow silently climbing over the courtyard wall. The figure stuck to the shadows, moving along the wall, slowly making his way to the house. He gently opened the door, stepped inside, then quietly shut it behind him. Step by step, he approached Su Zimo's bed. With a sword in hand, he slashed down hard. Bang! The whole bed nearly split apart. "No one's here?" the shadow muttered, surprised, and turned to leave. Suddenly, the room lit up. The darkness vanished. Su Zimo was calmly sitting at the table, pouring himself a cup of tea. "Want some?" He raised the cup and smiled. "You?" The shadow hesitated, confused by Su Zimo's calmness, then lunged with the sword again. Su Zimo simply raised his hand. A powerful pressure burst from him like a crashing wave or an avalanche. Though still seated, his presence became overwhelming, like an uncrossable chasm. The shadow froze on the spot, completely unable to move. He stared in horror at Su Zimo, pupils shrinking. He was too shocked to speak. Everyone in Nine Heavens Imperial Sect believed Lin Qiu from Grand Heaven Mountain was a total waste. His meridians blocked, unable to cultivate. But now, the man in front of him felt completely unfamiliar. "I'm really curious, so late at night you still came to kill me. Even here in Grand Heaven Mountain, I'm not safe." Su Zimo smiled. He walked over step by step and pulled the black cloth off the attacker's face. "It's you," Su Zimo said with a bit of surprise, recognizing the disciple. The disciple was Yang Cheng, also from Grand Heaven Mountain. He was just an inner disciple, and with nearly 10,000 of those, it's surprising Su Zimo even knew him. But that's because Yang Cheng had been following Lin Feng, Su Zimo's older brother, around for the past 3 years as his lackey. Whenever Lin Feng had tasks, Yang Cheng was usually the one to carry them out or deliver messages. "Tell me, why did you try to kill me?" Su Zimo asked calmly. Yang Cheng snorted and turned his head, refusing to answer. "My good brother sent you, didn't he?" Su Zimo asked again. Still, Yang Cheng said nothing. "Ever experienced hell?" Su Zimo asked with a grin. Yang Cheng glanced at him, slightly confused. "No rush. We'll take our time," Su Zimo said, waving his hand. He brought Yang Cheng into the true fate world, into the 18 levels of hell. "Greetings, my lord," said Bai Chong Feng, the slaughter god and current ruler of this hell, as he hurried over. "How's this place coming along?" Su Zimo asked. "The framework is in place. The system of judgment between good and evil is still being built. I'm planning to recruit some ghost soldiers soon to help manage it," Bai Chongfeng reported. "I've got someone for you. In 3 days, I want to know all his secrets," Su Zimo said, tossing Yang Cheng over. "Don't worry, my lord. No matter how tough someone is, they've never lasted even 1 day with me. They beg to die, but can't," Bai Chongfeng said with a bloodthirsty grin. What are you going to do to me?" Yang Cheng finally panicked. He shouted, "Where is this place? If I disappear, the Imperial Sun won't let you off." After leaving the true fate world, Su Zimo felt like the past of his previous self was becoming more and more interesting. He didn't understand. He was a so-called useless person who didn't threaten anyone. Why would even his own brother want to kill him? The night passed quietly. The next morning, as Su Zimo was still cultivating, he was woken up by a loud commotion outside. Chapter 614 Grand Heaven Selection Tournament. He walked out of his courtyard and saw that the usually quiet sect had suddenly become lively. Many young disciples were gathering and heading north, passing right by Su Zimo's courtyard. "What's going on out there?" Su Zimo asked the Long brothers. "They're preparing for the 9 Heavens Grand Gathering," Long Yidao explained. "There are so many disciples across the 9 mountains, but not everyone gets to participate in the event. So before the 9 Heavens Gathering officially begins, each of the 9 peaks holds a small-scale tournament to select who gets to go." "I see," Su Zimo nodded, then asked, "Why didn't I hear about this earlier?" Long Yidao hesitated but didn't answer right away. "Just say it," Su Zimo frowned. "Because, young master, everyone assumes you can't cultivate, so it was taken for granted that you wouldn't participate. No one thought to notify you," Long Erdeo added. "Interesting," Su Zimo smiled. "Let's go take a look." The selection tournament for the 9 Heavens Grand Gathering was held in Wind Thunder Valley. Wind Thunder Valley was a well-known place on Grand Heaven Mountain. Legend says that the 9 Heavens sage once sat in meditation there and ascended to the godly monarch realm, drawing down a heavenly tribulation of thunder. The place was blasted into a valley and almost destroyed. Since then, the valley had been filled with winds and thunder that hadn't faded even after thousands of years. Su Zimo and his 2 followers arrived to find the valley packed with disciples. Most were inner disciples or top-tier core disciples. Only these top disciples would be chosen to participate in the 9 Heavens Gathering. Outer disciples had cultivation levels too low to even qualify. Many were simply here to watch the matches. Wind Thunder Valley had entrances on all 4 sides. Su Zimo followed the crowd through one of them. The entrance was a wide stone path paved with blue stones, flanked by steep cliffs. The cliffs were jagged, with uneven textures that glowed faintly blue. At night, one could see lightning flickering inside them. Walking down the path, the space soon opened up ahead. A massive arena came into view. It occupied nearly the entire open space and was built from fused bluestone and mountain crystal. This material was extremely durable. Even a cultivator at the Fusion Heaven realm would struggle to break it. The arena was divided into 4 sections, for separate dueling stages. When Su Zimo arrived, he saw his former self's father, Lin Beishing, sitting at the head platform with 3 elders. They overlooked the tournament, and below them stood the participating inner and core disciples. Once everyone had gathered, Lin Beixing stood up and slowly walked to the front of the arena. Looking over the crowd, his voice, enhanced with spiritual power, echoed throughout Wind Thunder Valley. He said loudly, "The once-a-decade Nine Heavens Grand Gathering is about to be held. I believe everyone here knows why we've gathered, to select those who will represent Grand Heaven Mountain. The rules are the same as in previous years, but I'll repeat them again. Core disciples and inner disciples with celestial level strength can participate. In the end, only 4 will be chosen to represent our peak against the other 8. We have 4 dueling stages here. Each person has 1 chance to challenge. Win and stay, lose and leave. You can't challenge the same person repeatedly. It's a rotation-style battle. The last 4 standing on each stage will be our representatives." He paused briefly, then continued, "Now listen carefully. This part is for all of you. When the final 4 are left standing, everyone present, including outer and inner disciples, will have a chance to challenge them. If you believe you're stronger, you may step up. But the battles will be life or death. Each of the final 4 can be challenged up to 3 times. If they lose, the challenger takes their spot. If they win 3 times, they're locked in and no longer need to accept challenges." After his speech, all the disciples shouted in unison, "We understand." Lin Beixing nodded with satisfaction. "Then I officially declare the Grand Heaven Mountain Tournament for the Nine Heavens Grand Gathering begins." As soon as he finished speaking, the crowd erupted with chatter. "Is no one going to try first?" A young man with a spear looked at the hesitant crowd. He chuckled and said, "Since no one wants to go, I'll be the first." He released a strong aura and stepped onto the first stage. "That's Chong Ruofeng." Someone in the crowd recognized him right away. "He's the grandson of one of our elders. I heard he already became a core disciple. Definitely not someone to underestimate. Who would dare fight him? These 4 spots are going to be fought over like crazy." As everyone talked, another voice spoke up. "I'll take the second stage." Lin Feng, dressed in a white robe, walked calmly onto the second stage. "It's the Imperial Sun. Looks like there's no suspense on that stage." "Not necessarily. Some core disciples are known to hide their strength. A dark horse could still show up." "Chong Ruofeng, I challenge you." "Imperial Sun, no offense. I'll be your opponent." 2 more figures flew onto the stages and challenged the ones already there. "I, Hozhen, will guard the 3rd stage. I'll try the 4th. My name is Xue Qingming." In the blink of an eye, all 4 stages were occupied. With the referee elders giving the signal, battles broke out. Fights between core disciples weren't over quickly. They usually began with probing moves and ended with narrow defeats. The crowd was excited, cheering loudly. The tournament reached a fever pitch. Some were winning, others losing. Fighters came and went from the other stages, but only the 2nd stage remained unchanged. Lin Feng stood calmly on it the whole time. Few dared challenge him, and those who did were knocked off within 1 or 2 moves. Just then, a surprised voice rose from the crowd. Chapter 6:15, How about I give it a try? Look at the 4th platform. Xue Qingming is fighting Mo Zhe. I knew these 2 were bound to clash. Hearing the discussion around them, some people who didn't know the backstory asked out of curiosity, "What's the grudge between them?" "Xue Qingming killed Mo Zhe's father." "How deep do you think the grudge is?" "No way, that's serious?" "Well, it was kind of a misunderstanding. Back then, Xue Qingming took on a sect mission to investigate some strange events in Mo village. He eventually discovered that the village chief was behind everything, so he killed him. Later, he found out that the village chief was actually Mo Zhe's father. Even though the sect tried to mediate, the 2 still became bitter enemies. Ignoring the chatter around them, the 2 men on the 4th platform stood facing each other. One held a sword, the other a massive axe. "Come on, Xue Qingming. My sword won't show mercy," Mo Zhe said coldly. "Stop living in the past. That pain will only become a burden on your path to strength. Xue Qingming replied with a sigh. Cut the crap. I don't need you telling me how to live. Mose snapped and rushed forward with his sword. Xue Qingming stayed calm, lifting his axe and clashing with Mose. A wave of energy exploded each time their weapons collided. Loud booming sounds echoed around them. Sword Frenzy 13, Mose shouted. White spirit force wrapped around his sword, and the blade split into 13 afterimages that attacked Xue Qingming all at once. Xue Qingming swung his axe repeatedly, using wide and powerful movements to defend. They fought for several rounds without either gaining the upper hand. Sword Frenzy 26, Mose shouted again, frustrated by the deadlock. The 13 sword images split further, becoming 26. These new attacks were sneakier. Some came from thin air, others from underground, striking from strange angles. Xue Qingming, I'm going to torture you to death, Mose said coldly. You've already lost. Xue Qingming shook his head. Our styles are different. You rely on technique, I rely on power. In this world, anything can be broken by force. As he finished speaking, his axe began to tremble. Black spirit force coiled around it, and the surrounding space began to shake. With a loud boom, Xue Qingming leapt into the air, radiating a terrifying aura. Ignoring all the sword attacks, he brought his axe down straight at Mose. All of Mose's sword energy vanished under the force of that blow. Mose stood his ground, eyes focused. Feeling the deadly pressure from the axe, he found himself unable to dodge. The axe stopped just inches above his head. Why didn't you kill me? Mose asked, lips trembling. Take care of yourself, Xue Qingming said, putting away his axe, then kicked Mose off the platform. The crowd gasped as they realized what had just happened. People started talking. Xue Qingming was hiding his strength. He's just at the celestial phase level, but that axe strike felt like something from a world paragon. I didn't expect him to spare Mose though. That was surprising. That fight was the last one among the core disciples. In the end, only 4 remained on the platforms. Lin Feng, Xue Qingming, Hou Zhen, and Chang Ruofeng. They were all among the best in the sect, especially Hou Zhen, who had always stayed under the radar. Yet this time he defeated Ye Kai, one of the favorites, and earned a spot. Seeing this, Lin Beixing stepped down from the main platform. He smiled and said, "The results are mostly clear now. Next, all of you here have one chance to challenge any of the 4 standing. But I must remind you, the fights are life or death, so don't push your luck. If no one challenges them, I'll announce these 4 as the ones representing Grand Heaven at the 9 Heavens Grand Gathering." After hearing that, everyone in the crowd started looking at each other. No one dared step forward. They knew their strength and experience didn't come close. And just the life or death rule alone was enough to scare most of them off. How about I give it a try? At that moment, a voice came from the crowd. Wind Thunder Valley instantly fell silent. Everyone turned to look at the source of the voice. It's him. No way. If he wants to die, there are better ways. Overestimating himself. Just wants attention. Everyone had different reactions. Some mocked, some watched with curiosity. Su Zimo, dressed in white, walked calmly onto the platform. Chioer. Even Lin Beixing on the high platform froze in shock. Nonsense. Lin Beixing quickly reacted and shouted, "Chioer, get down. This isn't a place to joke around." "Father, I'm not joking. I want to join the 9 Heavens Gathering too," Su Zimo replied with a smile. "Aren't I a disciple of Grand Heaven?" "You?" Lin Beixing pointed at him, too angry to speak. "So, little brother, who do you want to challenge?" Lin Feng asked with interest. "You," Su Zimo said, pointing at Chang Ruofeng on the first platform. "Me? You want to challenge me?" Chang Ruofeng burst out laughing. "You sure about this, junior brother Lin?" "I'm sure," Su Zimo nodded. "Don't worry. Since the Mountain Lord is your father, I won't kill you," Chang Ruofeng said quietly. "But I'll teach you a lesson. Lesson 1: Know Your Limits. Su Zimo smiled and slowly walked onto the first platform. The disciples below watched like they were about to see a joke unfold. This really is a mess. One elder sighed and shook his head. Su Zimo ignored the others. His white robe and black hair drifted lightly in the breeze. "Lance Breaker!" shouted Chang Ruofing, charging forward with his spear. It was a strike focused purely on speed, leaving a phantom trail behind. Su Zimo seemed startled and quickly rolled to the side, narrowly dodging the attack. Chapter 6:16. The tournament ends. The spear grazed Su Zimo's ear, narrowly missing him. He looked unsteady, as if he might fall over any moment. Spear Dao triple kill. Chang Ruofing snorted again. His spear moved faster and faster, creating 3 overlapping afterimages. Su Zimo stumbled again and fell to the ground, but somehow still dodged the strike at the last second. As Su Zimo kept dodging and got closer, Chang Ruofing became frustrated and angry. His aura flared, and he slammed his spear into the ground. Because the arena floor was so hard, the spear didn't stick and spun in the air. Spear intent gathered around him, and a sharp pressure formed at the tip of the spear. Spear Dao, Red Lotus 7 kills. Chang Ruofing shouted. Red lotuses formed from spiritual energy floated out from the spear tip. As the red lotuses fell, the spear turned into a streak of light floating above the arena. When the spear descended from the sky, it pierced through 7 red lotuses in a row and came crashing down with overwhelming force. The strike covered nearly the entire platform, leaving Su Zimo no choice but to face it head-on. Lying on the ground, Su Zimo didn't even attempt to counter. He covered his eyes in fear, trembling all over. Just as the spear was about to strike him, something unexpected happened. A loud bang sounded. The spear bent mid-air, and its tip veered several meters off course, stabbing into the ground beside Su Zimo instead. "Was that a mistake?" someone in the crowd said in surprise. Even Chang Ruofing looked stunned. That attack had been flawless. How could it miss? Lying on the ground, Su Zimo suddenly launched a counterattack. Without using any external force, he released power from the 4 strange meridians he had just opened. Rolling forward suddenly, he slammed his body into Chang Ruofing. Chang Ruofing felt like he had been hit by a speeding carriage pulled by 8 horses. A heavy force knocked him off the stage. According to the rules, stepping off the platform meant losing. The referee elder twitched slightly but, under Lin Beixing's gaze, reluctantly announced. In the sect challenge round, Lin Xiu is victorious. He replaces Chang Ruofing and will join the other 3 to represent Grand Heaven Mountain at the 9 Heavens Gathering. The crowd instantly exploded with noise. "I don't accept this," Chang Ruofing shouted, hair disheveled. "How could a useless guy like him represent Grand Heaven Mountain? It's an embarrassment to the whole mountain. Is that how you speak to your fellow disciples?" Lin Beixing glanced at him and said coldly, "Disciples should support each other like family. Even if you can't do that, you shouldn't insult your peers. You're sentenced to 3 months in the Forbidden Zone deep within Wind Thunder Valley. Any objections?" "No objections, Master," Chang Ruofing quickly replied. He realized he had said something he shouldn't have in a moment of anger. Lin Beixing then looked back at the gathered disciples and said loudly, "I know many of you may not accept this result, but rules are rules. Rules uphold order and respect within our sect, and they are not up for debate. If you had the ability, I wouldn't object either. Now I officially announce the 4 disciples who will represent Grand Heaven Mountain at the 9 Heavens Gathering: Lin Feng, Hou Zhen, Xue Qingming, and Lin Xiu." As his voice fell, more murmurs spread through the crowd. "Senior brother Lin is really lucky. He dodged a few strikes and still won." "Yeah. But can that luck carry him through the 9 Heavens Gathering?" "Sigh. Looks like our Grand Heaven Mountain will be last place again this year." The opinions varied, but Su Zimo didn't care. Lin Feng looked at him and said with a smile, "Little brother, you really are lucky." "Just average," Su Zimo smiled back, then asked, "By the way, senior brother, I haven't seen Yang Cheng today?" He's out on a mission. He'll be gone for a while, Lin Feng replied. I see. Su Zimo nodded with a smile. With the selection complete, the disciples began leaving Wind Thunder Valley one by one. Jiang Chongqing was the first to rush over. Senior brother, you're truly wise and unmatched in strength, like the bright sun in the sky, lighting up my heart. With just a few moves, you turned your opponent to dust. I'm in awe, really, he said, laughing. Su Zimo chuckled and replied, Go get ready. We leave the sect tomorrow. After the tournament, Su Zimo returned to his courtyard. Not long after, Lin Beixing showed up. You've opened for Strange Meridians? Lin Beixing asked directly. Yes. Su Zimo nodded. You know your condition. Why did you still take part in the selection? Lin Beixing looked him in the eyes seriously. Even if he had killed you on that platform, I couldn't have done anything. You only survived because you were lucky. If you never try, how will you know? Su Zimo smiled. And I succeeded, didn't I? No need to try. You're withdrawing from the Nine Heavens Gathering, Lin Beixing said firmly. Why? Su Zimo frowned. The real Nine Heavens Gathering is a life-or-death battlefield. Do you really want to die? Lin Beixing asked bluntly. Su Zimo shook his head. Father, I have my own plans. I'm not backing out. I don't know what to say to you. Lin Beixing sighed in frustration. I guess I spoiled you too much growing up. I'll report this to your grandfather. There's still time before the gathering. Think it over carefully. After saying that, he stormed off. Su Zimo didn't care. Later that afternoon, something stirred in his True Fate world. When he arrived, Bai Chongfeng, the Lord of Hell, was already waiting. My lord, I've gotten everything out of him, he confessed. Bai Chongfeng reported. When Su Zimo saw Yang Cheng again, the man was nearly unrecognizable. His body was torn and covered in wounds. Chapter 6:17 Leaving the Imperial Sect. Yang Cheng was soaked in blood, almost unrecognizable. Barely clinging to life, he looked at Su Zimo with a hoarse voice and desperate eyes. I'll talk. I'll tell you everything. Just give me a quick death. Then start talking. Su Zimo nodded. It was Lin Feng, your brother. He ordered me to assassinate you. I was just following orders. Yang Cheng answered. Why would he want to kill me? Su Zimo asked. It's not like I'm in his way. I don't know. I wouldn't dare ask. He's ruthless. I'm always on edge when I'm around him, Yang Cheng replied. And the last time outside the sect, was that you guys too? The ones who almost killed me? Su Zimo asked again. No. I had nothing to do with that. I don't think it was him either, Yang Cheng answered. Su Zimo nodded slightly. As soon as he finished speaking, hellfire suddenly erupted and burned Yang Cheng to ashes. Leaving the True Fate world, Su Zimo returned to his courtyard. It was already the afternoon, and the events of the tournament were probably still spreading around Grand Heaven Mountain. He planned to leave the sect tomorrow. Since arriving in this world, he hadn't really had a chance to explore. After the Nine Heavens Gathering, he intended to search for the God-Demon battlefield. The rest of the day, Su Zimo focused on trying to break through the fifth strange meridian and practicing a new meridian-based technique. Time passed quickly while cultivating. By the time Su Zimo opened his eyes again, it was dawn. The morning sun lit up the world. He stepped out of his room and saw Jiang Chongqing already waiting in the pavilion. Senior brother, are we heading down the mountain today? Jiang Chongqing asked. Yes, you're coming with me, Su Zimo replied with a nod. All right, I need to buy some rare herbs anyway. Jiang Chongqing agreed. Because Lin Beixing was worried about Su Zimo's safety, he arranged for him to travel with Lin Feng. They agreed to meet at the sect gate. When Su Zimo and Jiang Chongqing arrived, Lin Feng was already there. Along with him were a young man and a young woman. As Su Zimo approached, the young man cupped his hands and smiled. Junior brother Lin, I'm Yelu Liang. Murong Yenner, the woman said coldly. Little brother? Lin Feng added with a smile. Senior brother Yelu Liang is the direct disciple of our third elder. Miss Murong is from Divine Heaven Mountain. I invited her to come along with us. Su Zimo nodded without much enthusiasm. Let's get moving. This trip down the mountain should take about 3 days. The people from the main sect are arriving soon, so we all need to be ready. The Nine Heavens gathering is no joke, Lin Feng reminded them. Jiang Chongqing shook his head and said, There's not much to prepare. My young master is unmatched, both in looks and strength. He's the top pick for the Nine Heavens gathering. If he claims the top spot, who would dare challenge that? Morong Yener didn't say anything, but Yelu Liang chuckled coldly and muttered, A dog takes after its master. Where does this confidence even come from? Did you just hear a dog barking, senior brother? Jiang Chongqing turned to Su Zimo and asked. I did. Su Zimo nodded. He added, But when a dog misbehaves, it's also the owner's fault for not training it. Who are you calling a dog? Yelu Liang's expression darkened as he stared at Jiang Chongqing. We didn't say it was you. Don't take it personally. But if the shoe fits, well, that's just awkward, Jiang Chongqing said with a grin. Yelu Liang's face turned green with anger. Lin Feng stayed calm and said, Enough arguing. Little brother, you were nearly killed the last time you left the sect. Even though we're with you now, be careful. Hearing the veiled threat, Su Zimo smiled and said, Then I hope that person shows up again. I'm looking forward to it. Beyond the gates of Grand Heaven Mountain was the main gate of the Nine Heavens Imperial Sect. At the base of the mountain, long jade stone steps extended downward, surrounded by white mist that made the whole place look surreal. Green trees and clear waters lined the path, with the occasional bird flying overhead. The gate to Nine Heavens Imperial Sect was guarded in rotation by members of the Nine Peaks. Today it was Divine Heaven Mountain's turn. Although Nine Heavens Imperial Sect had declined and was now considered one of the weaker Imperial-level sects, its former glory still showed in places, like this grand mountain gate. The pure white gate towered dozens of meters high, with carvings etched on both sides. The white mist wrapped around it, giving it a heavenly feel. A protective sect barrier surrounded the area, nearly invisible, but it shielded the entire sect. The formation had been passed down from the height of the sect's power thousands of years ago. As Su Zimo and the others passed through the gate, the disciples on duty greeted only Morong Yener, the senior sister from Divine Heaven Mountain. The rest were simply checked for their identity tokens, without any further courtesy. It was a clear sign of how strained relationships were between the Nine Mountains. The southern region was vast. Nine Heavens Imperial Sect sat on its eastern edge. To the north were the Beast Mountains, to the west was the World Sovereign Empyrean Sect. The boundless Nine Lands River flowed slowly past the sect's land. The territory ruled by Nine Heavens Imperial Sect wasn't very large. Within its lands, only 4 cities were under its direct control. The closest of them was Bright Flame City to the west. Bright Flame City was also the largest and most prosperous of the 4. Nine Heavens Imperial Sect was built atop Nine Heavens Mountain. To reach the city, they had to descend the mountain. It was midsummer, and the sun blazed like a fireball in the sky, baking the earth below. The trees along the mountain path drooped wearily in the heat. The group remained mostly quiet as they traveled. Only Lin Feng and Morong Yener whispered to each other, and Su Zimo could tell they liked each other. The descent wasn't too steep or rough, but the heat caused sweat to drip from everyone's foreheads. At midday, they stopped under a large tree with dense foliage. Lin Feng suggested, Yener and I will go find some fruit to quench our thirst. You all stay here and rest. Su Zimo nodded without objection. He watched as Lin Feng and Morong Yener walked farther and farther away, eventually disappearing into the forest. Suddenly, footsteps sounded nearby. Chapter 618 Jiang Nan. Footsteps rustled through the bushes. About 3 or 4 people stepped out from behind a large tree. All 4 wore green robes and had their faces covered. They had been hiding among the trees and shrubs. What? Jiang Chongqing beside Su Zimo was so shocked he couldn't even speak. Heaven has a path, but you didn't take it. Hell has no door, yet you walk right in. Looks like young Master Lin didn't learn his lesson last time. one of the masked men said in a sinister tone. At least I'm not a coward who hides his face, Su Zimo replied calmly. If you want to die, don't blame us. The man in green snorted and attacked. Senior brother, please protect me. Jiang Chongqing yelled and immediately hid behind Su Zimo. Su Zimo frowned slightly as one of the attackers charged at him with a blade. He suddenly grabbed Jiang Chongqing and pulled him in front of him as a shield. What the hell, senior brother? You're selling me out. Jiang Chongqing screamed, terrified, and rolled to the side to dodge. Meanwhile, Yelu Liang blocked one of the attackers, and the two started fighting evenly. The remaining 3 masked men went straight for Su Zimo. Su Zimo was dodging frantically under their combined assault. Although their cultivation was only at the Yuanfu level, the attackers had clearly trained in a joint attack technique, working together seamlessly. Su Zimo's defenses were barely holding up, and soon he had nowhere left to run. One of the long blades was about to slice into his head, just a few centimeters away. Suddenly, a large bronze-colored hand reached out and grabbed the blade midair. It looked like it was made of iron, rock solid. With a simple twist, the sword shattered into pieces, and the masked attacker was sent flying. Everyone turned to look. It was Jiang Chongqing, standing calmly. Kill him! One of the other attackers shouted, and the remaining 2 charged toward Jiang Chongqing. Yinyang cloud hands, Jiang Chongqing said quietly. He slowly waved both hands in a circular motion in front of him, like the flow of Tai Chi. His moves were both soft and firm, neutralizing the attacker's strikes and absorbing their momentum. The 2 masked men felt like they had fallen into a swamp. They couldn't control their own arms and were being dragged along by Jiang Chongqing's movements. Soft and hard as one, Jiang Chongqing said as he suddenly exerted force, blasting both enemies away. The power in that strike was immense. Hidden strength exploded within their bodies, and they were blown apart midair. Su Zimo looked at Jiang Chongqing, surprised. Yelu Liang, who had just subdued the last masked man, rushed over and asked Su Zimo, Junior brother Lin, are you all right? I'm fine, Su Zimo nodded. That's good. You scared me? Yelu Liang sighed in relief and reached up to wipe the sweat from his forehead. But suddenly, he struck with full force. His sword slashed toward Su Zimo without warning. Clang! Before the sword could land, Jiang Chongqing caught it midair. How is that possible? Yelu Liang stared at him, stunned. You really think those masked guys could stand around here 24/7? Hardly anyone knew we were leaving the sect. How else could they have known where to ambush us? I've been suspicious of a traitor from the beginning, Jiang Chongqing said with a grin. See? It never hurts to stay alert. As soon as he finished speaking, Yelu Liang gave up on pulling the sword free. It was held too tightly. He dropped the weapon and ran for his life. But Jiang Chongqing held the sword like a snake, fast and agile. He pinched the blade between 2 fingers, then flung it like a dart. The sword turned into a streak of light and pierced Yelu Liang in the back, nailing him to a tree and straight through the heart. The quiet forest fell silent again. A few leaves drifted lazily to the ground. Jiang Chongqing walked over to Yelu Liang's corpse and began rummaging through his belongings. He pocketed some rare herbs and pills. My real name is Jiang Nan. I grew up without parents. One snowy winter day, an old man found me and raised me as his grandson. I grew up eating meals from every household in the village. Those villagers were like family. Then one day, a group of martial artists came. They were in a bad mood and decided to vent by massacring the village. My grandfather hid me, and that's how I survived, Jiang Chongqing said as he searched the bodies of the other masked attackers, smiling as he spoke. Before he died, my grandfather grabbed my sleeve and told me to run and never look back. He told me to live on no matter what. Since then, I changed my name to Jiang Chongqing, just to survive. Su Zimo quietly watched Jiang Chongqing, saying nothing. Eventually, Jiang Chongqing finished looting the bodies and turned to Su Zimo with a grin. The guy you used to know as Jiang Chongqing. Well, standing in front of you now is Jiang Nan. Life's like a play. Never trust just what your eyes see. Before Su Zimo could reply, two figures walked toward them. It was Lin Feng and Morong Yen. Little brother? Lin Feng called out in surprise. He looked around at the scene, and his expression changed. What happened here? He asked quickly. It's exactly what it looks like. Yelu Liang and the others tried to kill me, and I killed them instead, Su Zimo said flatly. Yelu Liang? That's impossible. He's one of our fellow disciples, Lin Feng said in disbelief. And with your strength, how could you beat him? That's none of your concern. Just report the truth to father, Su Zimo replied. Yelu Liang was the second elder's direct disciple. You'll have to explain this yourself, Lin Feng said with a frown. Then don't bother. Su Zimo waved his hand and turned to head down the mountain. Lin Feng stared at his back, expression shifting. After a moment, he followed. Bright Flame City wasn't far from the base of Nine Heavens Imperial Sect. Only about 7 or 8 kilometers away. Chapter 619, The Auction. After nearly a day of travel, the group finally arrived at Bright Flame City early the next morning. From the outside, Bright Flame City didn't look much different in architectural style from other cities. It was an older city, and there were some cracks and worn-out spots on the city walls. On top of the wall, there were high platforms at regular intervals, each with blazing holy fire burning, the symbol of Bright Flame City. It was early morning, the sun rising in the east with purple mist drifting over. The city, asleep all night, was slowly waking up. The streets were crowded with people. Vendors carried goods on their shoulders, shouting through the bustling crowd. It was lively, since they had come to Bright Flame City mainly to prepare for the Nine Heavens Grand Gathering. They expected to stay for 2 or 3 days. After entering the city, the 4 of them decided to first find an inn to rest and settle down. Just as they walked into an inn, Su Zimo unexpectedly saw some fellow disciples from Grand Heaven Mountain. Yi Kai and his younger sister Yi Xian were also there, and it looked like they had just arrived as well. Yi Xian wore a white robe. Her long hair was tied back into a small braid, and she carried a large bundle on her back. Senior brother Yi, junior sister Yi. Lin Feng greeted them with a smile. You're here too. Yi Kai turned and smiled warmly. Yes, we heard this auction has been in preparation for 3 years. There are supposed to be a lot of rare treasures. How could we miss it? Lin Feng laughed. While the others chatted, Su Zimo sat at a table with Jiang Chongsheng, discussing what food to order. Senior brother, something simple will do, Jiang Chongsheng said. Come on, we can't just make do when it comes to food. Su Zimo shook his head. Then I'm not paying. I saved all my spirit crystals for the auction. Jiang Chongsheng quickly replied. A great man doesn't fuss over small things. Don't be so stingy. Su Zimo grinned. You're so strong. Why didn't you join the Grand Heaven Mountain tournament yesterday? What's the point? Even if I went to the Nine Heavens event, I'd just embarrass myself, Jiang Chongsheng said indifferently. What do you mean? Su Zimo asked. You usually don't pay attention, so I'll tell you, among the 9 mountains, Grand Heaven Mountain is at the bottom, Jiang Chongsheng explained. Don't be fooled by your brother being an imperial son. The other 8 peaks don't take him seriously. Especially this year, Pure Heaven and Purple Heaven Mountains have several monstrous geniuses. In hundreds of years, our Grand Heaven Mountain hasn't even made it into the top 3. That bad? Su Zimo chuckled and shook his head. Just then, Yi Xian walked over and glared at Su Zimo. What are you doing here? She asked. Came for the auction, Su Zimo replied. You were nearly assassinated a few days ago, and you still dare to wander around? She asked. What? Are you worried about me now? Su Zimo smiled. I'm just wondering when you'll drop dead. Yi Xian snorted and turned her head. Oh, come on, senior sister. All I did was accidentally see you bathing. Are you still mad about that? Su Zimo said, shaking his head. It's been so long I can barely remember what it looked like. You still dare to talk about it? Yi Xian's face turned red. Well, if you have time tonight, you can come to my room and help refresh my memory, Su Zimo said with a grin. Go to hell. Yi Xian drew the sword at her waist and slashed at him. Xianer! Yi Kai quickly stopped her, frowning. What are you doing? Brother, he bullied me. Yi Xian pointed toward Su Zimo and Jiang Chongsheng. Su Zimo turned to Jiang Chongsheng and suddenly jumped up, yelling, Chongsheng! You shameless scoundrel! How could you flirt with someone like that? A righteous man like me won't associate with the likes of you. You really are an ass. Jiang Chongsheng muttered under his breath. Fine. Since this was your first offense, you can make it up by paying for this meal, Su Zimo said, waving his hand. Once everyone sat down, they ordered a full table of dishes. While they were eating, a group of people entered the inn, 5 of them, all dressed in matching purple robes that stood out. On the robes were embroidered mountains, rivers, and crashing waves. They're from the Mountain River Imperial Sect. Lin Feng frowned slightly. Looks like they're here for the auction too. Speaking of the Mountain River Imperial Sect, also known simply as Mountain River Sect, it was important to understand the power structure of the southern region. The southern region had only one god sect, the Eternal God Sect. There were 2 Empyrean sects, the World Sovereign Empyrean Sect and the main sect of the Nine Heavens Sect, the Nine Heavens Empyrean Sect. As for imperial sects, there were at least 5. The Mountain River Sect was ranked alongside the Nine Heavens Sect. The disciples from the Mountain River Sect noticed Su Zimo's group as well. See that woman in the purple robe with the short hair and the purple whip on her waist? Jiang Chongsheng whispered to Su Zimo. Su Zimo nodded slightly. The woman had short hair above her ears and wore a tight-fitting purple robe. The whip on her waist looked like a coiled snake. Among the group of male disciples, she stood out. She's the imperial daughter of Mountain River Sect. Word is she beat the entire younger generation into submission by herself, Jiang Chongsheng said. How do you know so much? Su Zimo asked with a smile. It never hurts to know a bit more when you're traveling the southern region, Jiang Chongsheng replied. And the young man next to her is her brother, Chu Zichao. He's basically the troublemaker of Mountain River Sect, kind of like your role in Nine Heavens. After getting their rooms, the Mountain River Sect group sat down at the table next to Su Zimo's. Chu Zichao raised his wine cup and walked over with a smile. He looked at Su Zimo and the others and asked, You guys from Nine Heavens Sect here for the auction too? Yes. Lin Feng nodded. Well, I say don't bother. Your sect's been tearing itself apart for years. It's fading fast. How can you compete with our Mountain River Sect financially? Might as well quit while you're ahead. Chu Zichao laughed. Yi Kai frowned and was about to speak. But the woman from Mountain River Sect suddenly stood up and glared at Chu Zichao. Zichao, what nonsense are you spouting? Apologize now. After speaking, she turned to Su Zimo's group, bowed slightly and said, My brother misspoke. Please don't take offense. It's fine. Just make sure it doesn't happen again, Lin Feng said with an unpleasant expression. Chapter 620, The First Eternal Shop. It's true, Chu Zichao muttered on the side. He looked over at Su Zimo and walked up with a smile. You're the spoiled brat from the Grand Heaven lineage, right? I'm that well known? Su Zimo asked with a grin. No, I made it a point to follow you. I really admire you, Chu Zichao said proudly. And you are? Su Zimo asked, pretending not to know. I'm Chu Zichao from the famous poem, In the Morning I Depart from the White Emperor Among Colorful Clouds. Chu Zichao explained smugly. Oh, so you're young Master Chu. I've long admired you. It's an honor to finally meet you. Su Zimo stood up and cupped his hands. No need to be polite. It's mutual admiration. Chu Zichao laughed and nodded. The others looked at the two of them pretending to get along so well, and they couldn't help but feel awkward. 2 good-for-nothings from rival sects, truly a match made in heaven. You must visit the Mountain River Sect someday so I can treat you properly, Chu Zichao said with a smile. Absolutely. The gates of Grand Heaven Mountain are always open to you. Su Zimo nodded back. After a few more words, Chu Zichao was dragged away by his sister. Lin Feng turned to Su Zimo and said, Brother, it's best to stay away from people like him. No need for you to worry about it, Su Zimo replied calmly. After breakfast, with nothing else to do, Everyone went off to explore the city on their own. Su Zimo wandered around Bright Flame City with Jiang Chongqing. The city was quite large, not as big as Tower City, where Su Zimo had been before, but still a decent mid-sized city. As they walked, something caught their eye, a shop. From the outside, the storefront looked very old and not very large. But the sign above the shop had 4 bold, golden characters. The First Eternal Shop. To call itself the first across the entire Eternal Lands, with a name like that, Su Zimo's curiosity was definitely piqued. But what really caught his attention was that Chu Xichao and the woman in black were also inside. Before even walking in, Su Zimo could already hear Chu Xichao shouting, "I'll be the next imperial son of Mountain River Sect. You think I can't afford something from your crummy little shop? Open your dog eyes. My sister is the imperial daughter." "Enough, Xichao." His sister frowned and tried to calm him down. Su Zimo walked into the shop. Inside, the lighting was bright and the space wasn't too big. All around were a dozen glass display cases filled with hundreds of items. Behind the main display was a small door covered by a gray curtain that likely led to the back room. The shop owner, a chubby middle-aged man in a blue-green robe, sat behind the counter looking sickly and bored. He yawned frequently, as if exhausted. "Young Master Chu," Su Zimo greeted with a smile. "Oh, it's young Master Lin." Chu Xichao turned and smiled back. "What's going on? I heard your voice from far away," Su Zimo asked. "It's this dumb shop. I wanted to buy something, but they won't take spirit crystals. They only trade items," Chu Xichao grumbled. Su Zimo chuckled and looked around. Besides the display cases, there were also 9 transparent pillars standing upright in the middle of the shop. Each pillar had items sealed inside, some big, some small, all unique. Dragon Wandering Sword, forged from a real dragon's spine using volcanic lava from Mount Fu. The blade carries a dragon's aura and has a burning effect. 1,000-year Ghost. A complete soul sealed in cold moonstone for 1,000 years. It still has consciousness and special uses. Heart of the War God. One of 3 pills left behind by 9 Heaven Sage. Increases strength by 300% for 30 minutes after consumption. There were all kinds of rare items. Even if they weren't legendary, they were certainly valuable and hard to find. When Su Zimo's group entered, the shopkeeper spoke like a machine. "Items in the glass cases must be traded. Items in the pillars require special conditions to obtain." Hearing that, Su Zimo realized the shopkeeper wasn't human. He was a very realistic puppet. He walked over, studied the puppet closely, and said, "A puppet this lifelike is really rare." The details were perfect. Even the wrinkles and expressions looked real. If the puppet stayed still, most people would never know it wasn't human. "Looking to buy something, young Master Lin?" Chu Xichao asked. "Just browsing," Su Zimo replied casually. He looked toward the woman in black and asked, "May I know your name, miss?" "Chu Shanhe," she replied coldly with a slight nod, clearly not interested in chatting. Su Zimo smiled and didn't press further. He looked at the puppet behind the counter and asked, "If I wanted to buy you, what would I need?" The puppet raised its head, waved its hand, and a glowing book appeared in the air. The pages flipped on their own, and then the puppet calmly said, "Puppet Arts, 3,000 merit points." "What are merit points?" Su Zimo asked. "The shop posts tasks randomly each day. Completing tasks earns you contribution points. Currently, you have 0. Would you like to accept a task now?" The puppet asked mechanically. "No thanks." Su Zimo shook his head and looked around the shop again. Then he walked over to the central pillar and looked up at the very top. Inside was a wooden box, dark brown, covered in intricate runes, slowly drifting inside the pillar. At first, he hadn't paid much attention. But when he stared at it, the wind-destroying pearl and soft-water pearl in his god world suddenly reacted. This, Su Zimo frowned, surprised. It seemed the item in the box had something to do with the 5 spirit pearls. But the Eternal Lands and the Primordial Heartlands were completely different dimensions. There shouldn't be any connection between them. "I want the wooden box at the top," Su Zimo said calmly to the puppet. The puppet flipped through the book again and said slowly, Lost Treasure Box contains strong wood-type energy. It has been here since the first Eternal Shop was founded. Over millions of years, no one has ever discovered what's inside. To obtain it, you must trade the heart of a blood lizard.